60, you can call in with whatever's on your mind, and it's called Free Talk Live for that reason. With you on Free Talk Live, you've got me, Bonnie,
Mr. Penguin,
and Richie Rich.
And tonight we have multiple things to talk about. Some silly, but
the good ones are the silly ones.
But even the silly ones, we can have serious conversations about, I think. And one of the things I saw tonight, looking for stuff to talk about, stuff that's going on in the world. Apparently Vance is criticizing Musk, and that kind of interested me because, I don't know, I would think that they'd all be like, on the same team. Not that he's really like harshly criticizing him, but it says, Vance, Musk has made some mistakes with Doge's federal worker firings.
I mean, that sounds like an acknowledgement, not necessarily a criticism.
Yeah. But
well, and Musk himself said, like, I'm not batting 1,000 here. I'm going to make mistakes. So what do you expect?
Yeah.
I'm also human.
How could you make a mistake with firing a federal worker?
That's
a good question.
From our perspective, you can't. From their perspective, they fired a whole bunch of people and then went, oh, some of these people were critical for the work that's currently being done, and we need to bring them back.
Yeah, I'll have to back up and say I think you probably could make a mistake. I mean, there's probably some nuclear people that probably we shouldn't get rid of because they're dealing with, like, I don't know, proper disposal of, like, all the waste we've created.
They're keeping the reactors cool.
Yeah, they're
the only one who knows how to run the program.
Yeah.
It's Homer Simpson.
But you're right. I mean, I suspect a lot of them. It's almost. I would suspect it'd be very hard to fire somebody who would be, actually needed.
Yeah, it'd be kind of hard to do.
And even the nuclear reactor program, that they created that problem. They shouldn't be involved in it anyway.
And there's another aspect of it too. The actual nuclear power plants, like, they're corporations that, like, employ. So I'm not sure how much the actual regulatory body is actually really doing anyway. So
my biggest problem with Doge, and I've ranted about this a few times already, is they're cutting government funding and making things more efficient. But are you getting a refund check? Are your taxes going down? Right? Like,
did you see the
No.
ticker they put on the national debt thing? It seems to be just like some made up. I don't even understand what it means.
Okay, I have not. But the national debt is so inconceivably large. Like, I'm not smart enough to comprehend.
Well, nobody is.
How exactly? So it's functionally useless. It could be 35 trillion. It could be zero.
Here's the thing: they could eliminate the entire government, and the debt would still not get paid off in, like, decades.
Right. So, like, repudiate it, cancel it,
like,
do whatever, hit the reset button.
Yeah, they're even, I mean, like, we can continue to pay just the same amount of taxes that we currently pay for decades and eliminate the budget, completely, and we would still have to pay for decades to come. Yeah, before the
And it's not my debt. I don't owe it. Neither do the future generations of workers.
People who haven't been born yet.
People who haven't been born yet. How did they incur this debt? They didn't.
There was an interesting idea that somebody had here in our community. Is let's just sell off the land. I mean, there's so much government land. Let's sell it off. Use that to pay off the debt.
Well,
okay.
So, like,
you think there's $35 trillion worth of land?
I actually suggested that. Let's sell it to the Chinese. I mean, the Chinese want land. They can have it.
I'm kind of scared of the Chinese owning Utah.
They shouldn't own the land in the first place. That's another thing, right? They confiscated the land, and then now the goal is to, like, have them sell it. No, they should give it because it's not theirs. It's not theirs to sell.
That's a really good point, and they shouldn't give it to China. They should give it to, like, whoever's around that wants to homestead it.
Yeah, just open it up to homesteading.
And the thing about, like, somewhere like Utah is, like, there are 96% of Utah is supposedly owned by the federal government, and
unconstitutionally.
It's just like you can just walk up to any mountain you want and hang out there all day unless, like, BLM sees you. In like places like New Hampshire, you'd try to walk up to some place and there's, like, a worker or a property owner who's going to shoot you. It's, like, inconceivably large, the amount of land space that the government owns, they're not using it for anything, and it's beautiful and fun.
Yep.
And I don't think China should own it.
And there would be actually a positive to defaulting on the debt. Nobody would loan us money again. I mean,
no one would loan the federal government, but they're clearly incapable of paying it back.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, how they go that far into debt and maintain, like, a AAA or AA credit rating on the world, it's ridiculous. F. You borrow money and you never pay it back. And you've been doing so for decades. You don't get any more.
Richie Rich gives it an F. Well, one thing the thing I brought up the national debt about was to say that they have this like Doge counter, Doge ticker on it now, and it's like going up into the positive. It's like this little ticker, it's showing green, and I'm pretty sure it's green, and it's showing like a number going up and up and up and up, and it's supposed to be your savings, and it just feels to me like it's a fake, maybe
It
even
is.
completely made up.
Because you're not getting any money back.
So has anybody tried refreshing the page and seeing if it resets?
It just, I don't know.
Because it's probably just like a little JavaScript in the browser, and like it just keeps going up. Like
I feel like somebody would have figured that out by now, but I don't think it's rooted in any sort of reality.
What makes you think that nobody's figured it out already?
Because it's been going on for like weeks, and people pay attention to that site.
Okay.
We trust the nerds.
Massey has it on his.
So you think it would have
lapel.
made it the news or whatever if it had been? Like,
yeah, if it
just
was like
basically
literally faked super obviously.
Like, yeah.
And especially because people want Musk to lose. Not that I really am criticizing them for that. I don't care.
Well, again, you're not getting a refund. They're not lowering taxes. They're just reallocating the money that was spent on like transgender children's books in Peru to like their favorite program, which is likely military spending.
Oh yeah.
Right. So they're siphoning it off still from your taxes, and then putting it into programs that they like, as opposed to the woke nonsense.
Oh yeah, one
that
thing
they're
we
pulling
should
from.
maybe talk about is that Trump's already bombed some other country's ships. So
Okay.
so
In
much
Yemen?
for being.
Is this
I
Yemen?
think so. I think
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
So much for being like, oh, I don't want to get us involved in any wars.
Like Houthis or something.
Yeah, I didn't actually like go and
I'm
read
probably saying
all
that
about
wrong.
it. I see it on the Twitters.
All right.
I saw a meme today that said, I don't look at the news because if it's important enough, I'll see it in memes. And I was like, that's genuinely true.
Yeah.
It's
Then you see the meme, and you got to go look it up and find out what they're talking about.
Right.
I'm thinking if it's important enough, I'll probably be hearing it outside.
Yeah. Hearing it
Bombs going
outside.
off, nukes going off.
Oh, I thought you meant like from people you see.
Power going out.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm talking about like world ending kind of.
Well,
if it's important enough.
If it's important enough, my nuke alert necklace will go off. Did you ever see those?
No.
So like a mood ring.
That was a thing that like Free Talk Live was asked to. Maybe
Oh,
Free Talk Live
sponsored it?
did sponsor, or
Okay.
it did sponsor Free Talk Live, but it's definitely an Alex Jones sponsored thing,
Okay.
and it has commercials where it's like, you can buy this necklace and it'll start beeping if a nuke is incoming, and I'm like, wouldn't you rather just not know so you can just disappear instead of being freaking out for 5 minutes and then die?
You know what's funny is I actually bought a like Geiger counter thingy, and then I was told I bought the wrong thing. But by somebody who knows better, that's related. Well, my partner.
Yeah, it would be interesting to have a Geiger counter just to go around and see if you can, like some people use them for like ghost hunting, or just go around and see if like anything is giving off something bad for you.
Well,
All right.
we are in the granite state, and I think like even granite countertops will give off
Whoa.
like radiation or whatever.
Hmm.
Remind you, it's in very small amounts.
Yeah.
So like a paper, like a thin slice of paper will actually
Oh.
like stop it or something. But
Fire it up next to a 5G tower. Just piss off those people.
Yeah, just make a video of that and you can make a lot of money. Like, look what's happening when I'm next to the 5G. I mean, like,
This
I
is what
believe in
5G
that
is
stuff.
doing to you people. Do you see how much radiation that is?
I believe
Do you
in
want
that
this
stuff,
next to your
honestly.
head?
And I don't mean I believe in it because I've like looked at the numbers and I know that it's right. I'm just like, I assume they're trying to kill us. I
For only
just assume.
$59.95, you can get our copper phone cover that
Yeah,
protects you against this iridium radiation from
Copper.
the 5G towers.
they literally make basically like, I guess, copper hats.
Oh, it's
So it's-
upgraded from tinfoil.
Yes, it's it's an upgrade of the tinfoil hat for your brain. It's
All right.
probably good for you. I'm not gonna lie. There's been also times where people had made like their office or something into basically a what's it called when you're
Faraday cage.
Faraday cage, but then somebody comes in with like their, maybe not their cell phone, but like somebody
And it
comes
rings. Son of a gun.
and they turn on like the Wi-Fi in there, and it's
Yeah.
just like getting worse on them.
Because it holds it in.
Yeah, it's literally like you could feel it, I guess.
You're just microwaving yourself inside your Faraday cage.
That's horrible. That's literally true.
Yeah, I don't think most people really understand how the Wi-Fi or all this radiation stuff works. Like the further you get from it, like it's substantially reduced the amount of radiation you're getting.
Exponentially.
Yeah.
I misunderstood that when you and Ian were talking about it once, and I really thought you guys were saying that the further away from it, the worse it gets. And I was just
No.
like, that's really bad. I'm probably really far away from a bunch of them.
No.
But yeah.
The further away you get, it approaches zero.
Yeah.
Now there's like, I mean,
there's one in my neighborhood though. So.
Here's the thing, like there's definitely like some amount of like risk if you like hold something up that's high power like right to your head for like a lot of hours every day. But like if you're talking about like your normal usage of like these electronic devices, there's probably not a whole lot to worry about. And like a lot of the stuff that's like the 5G stuff, it's like you can think of it sort of like as a Wi-Fi router on every telephone pole nearby. That's all it is. It's just they're adding, it's 4G but with the Wi-Fi access point nearby, so that you can connect at higher speeds. That's basically all we're talking about. So like I think the 5G stuff is just it's quite overblown. Let's put it that way.
What about my Bluetooth earbuds that go in both ears and just cook my brain?
So
I think that's dumb.
Those are actually probably more dangerous for you than the 5G stuff because that's right next in.
It's right in my ear.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
and connecting to each other, right?
I don't know. It's connected to the phone.
One thing that really pissed me off was I use headphones only that are wired for that reason because like I just don't want to cook my brain like that. And so I have one pair and I kept losing it. So I was like, I'm buying another pair so that way I definitely always have one. I ordered one. I searched on Amazon, like wired iPhone headphones, and they arrived, a 2-pack, and they had this Bluetooth picture on them, and I was like, why the heck does it have a picture of Bluetooth on it? I plug it in, and it pops up asking me if I want to connect to it with Bluetooth.
So it's got wired and Bluetooth on.
Yes, and you can't turn the Bluetooth off or anything. So yeah,
I was gonna say that's convenient.
That was a trick. That I mean, like they're trying to kill us. The Amazon thing that I ordered it from, I went back and it did not indicate that. But I've gotten like really messed up with orders from there.
My company sells computer products, as you guys know, and one of the things we sell is actually a wired mouse. And you think, why would anybody use a wired mouse? But for security reasons, it's good to use a wired mouse. This is like another type of item that like we need to add to our catalog explicitly because of this kind of garbage.
Yeah, and apparently they're trying to keep us away from them. Or keep us from being able to get them, it feels like.
I use a wired mouse because my wireless mouse has a problem with right click that I don't care to fix. So I have like a wired mouse on my desk and then the wireless on the couch area so I can still control stuff while I'm sitting on the couch.
The other annoying thing about like stuff with batteries is you either have to replace them or recharge it. So like a wired mouse is actually like kind of more convenient in some respects.
And again, not for me because I use my main PC is set up on my desk in the living room. Right, so when I watch something on TV, I flop back on the couch, and I want to be able to like play, pause, whatever.
I see. But see, the thing is, in that situation, you're taking advantage of the wireless as opposed to if it's just on your desk, you're not.
Yeah, that's why I have the wired one on my desk.
Sometimes,
I have two. I have one on the desk.
You're actually using it like in a way that makes sense, but like most people are like they have a wireless mouse that's right next to their computer, and it's like okay, you're not really gaining anything.
Well, sometimes the wire does get annoying. Like even if you're not playing like a game or something, I feel like that's
if you're playing a game, you have to go wired. There's too much lag without it. Those milliseconds count for those nerds.
Well, okay, I don't play games, so I'm just saying like sometimes you're trying to use your mouse and then the freaking wire gets in the way and irritates you.
That's funny. Okay. I'm thinking of the PS2. Do you guys remember the old PS2 ports on the back for the mice and the keyboards as opposed to the USB that came later?
I've never played with
yes,
PS2.
yes. No, not a PS2. On the computer, it's called the PS2 port.
Yeah, it's called the PS2 port. And anyway, it literally goes back to the 90s, maybe even earlier than that. There's an older version of it even that's bigger. But anyway, but that's actually got lower latency than the USB.
Okay.
So for gaming, it's actually what you want to go with.
I actually preferred those for the longest time because I felt when if I had to go into BIOS for whatever reason, like sometimes USB didn't activate at that low level.
Yeah.
Like it turned on later. So like USB keyboards and mice wouldn't work and I have to go like run and get the PS2 one, plug that stuff in or get the adapter. I think they fixed that now. Like that hasn't been a problem with recent PCs that I've had.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, they still have PS2 ports on a lot of like desktop systems, and I don't know if you can actually get a PS2 keyboard. I don't know about mouse either, but I know though. I know my company has PS2 keyboards, but we probably have the last run of like IBM. PS2 keyboards that were ever manufactured. So, and that was like a decade ago probably. So its stock is getting a little bit on the old side, but.
Well, then raise the price when all these gaming nerds decide that they want to get the latency advantage.
Yeah.
Nerds.
Do people know about that, or are they going to hear about it first here on Free Talk Live?
I am sure it's probably here first on Free Talk Live because what other radio show is going to be talking about latencies and PS2 ports and it's getting pretty technical.
Maybe a gamer show, but
I don't think so.
I do a lot of retro gaming, and even that.
Gamers, they're not that smart. I mean, they might have a little bit more technical.
Fighting words for Richie Rich.
Hold
I'm not insulted.
A little bit more technical knowledge than your average person, but barely.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
But what I was driving at was like, I do a lot of retro gaming, and even that has moved to boutique companies offering wireless controllers and whatever for old retro consoles. And the first thing that gets tested is like latency. We're like, how many milliseconds is this going to screw me up? Because like when you're the people that do the speed runs or whatever, that like 1 frame rate, it's too much, man. Like I gotta go all wired.
Did you hear about the NESs getting faster as they age?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's NES, a game system?
The Nintendo. It's the original Nintendo.
It was before your time.
They got faster as they aged.
The capacitors are rotting on the boards inside the system, and it's speeding up the clock speeds.
That's so weird.
It is. It really is. Like it's only going to be noticeable from what I understand. Like if you have I'm trying to think what they call it, a bot. I think they're calling it.
Okay.
That like does this all the testing for you. Like it runs through the game for you to try and get the best time. Like an actual human isn't going to be able to like notice it, but.
Okay.
You say that, but when it speeds up enough and all of a sudden all these speedrun records start going down because people are catching up.
Well, I think the end result of if you actually read the article, the end result was that's not going to affect a human for some reason because it has to do with like the frame rate accuracy or something like that.
That's how the speedrunners take advantage of it.
I don't know that they can based off what I understood of the article.
Like it's just not like fast enough.
Yeah,
it's not speeding up enough.
I mean, okay, again,
maybe the more it rots.
I'll bring up Tetris as the example. Right, for the longest time, there was the max level that you could get on Tetris, and then somebody beat that.
Wow.
And then I think last year or whatever, someone got to like the kill screen of Tetris, which was like the last level possible, and the game crashed. And one of the reasons why well, I mean, that's the end result. That's how arcade games used to be. Like that's how you knew that you finished the game was it just crashed. But the what I'm driving at is only recently did humans change how they hold the controller, and that sped it up, and then all of a sudden people started using this new like roller technique by holding the controller differently, and a whole bunch of people surpassed what was thought to be like the maximum level you could get to because they found a new way to do it.
How could they surpass it if the game was just gonna crash?
There was a previous like maximum level that people got to,
but it wasn't the one that crashed.
It wasn't the crash screen, and then it was surpassed, right, with this new controller technique, and then someone like got to the end.
Okay.
Right. So when like humans find a way, and records, even someone just recently beat Mike Tyson in under like 2 minutes on the game screen. Right. And again, that one, right, the it's not an actual 2 minutes, it's the clock speed in game. And if this unsurpassable record was broken because the game sped up, right, then maybe, who knows?
Interesting.
But again, it was thought like nobody can beat Tyson in under 2 minutes, and he got in like 159.989 or something like that.
Is this a game that Tyson's good at, or somehow
Mike Tyson's Punch Out for the NES is it's a boxing game.
Real life.
It's not Mike Tyson himself. No.
Oh.
Like the boss battle in Mike Tyson's Punch Out is a fight against Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And he's very difficult to beat.
Okay.
I have never beat him. There's like a password you can get to if you just want to practice on Mike, but it's a lot of muscle memory and a lot of luck.
That's funny.
And he's hard to beat. And this dude like beat him in less than 2 minutes in game.
Okay.
Which is faster than a real life 2 minutes. The game clock speed runs faster than a normal clock.
Okay. Well.
What was that on, out of curiosity?
What was it on?
Yeah, like what system?
I mean, it's Nintendo Entertainment System. I don't know if he I mean, to get the record, he probably did it on original hardware.
Okay.
Like that's usually pretty standard. If you're, you can practice the speed runs and have the bots get to you, but if you want to hold records for speed runs, it's usually original hardware.
Fair enough.
Well,
I can look it up during the break though.
I thought it was interesting that today I walked outside and saw that my neighbors have a sign in their yard that says, we stand with Canada.
Okay.
I mean, I get that he's actually going after them, but it's kind of just hilarious. I didn't think that would be a thing in my lifetime. Like we're somehow going against Canada.
So Are we joining Canada?
No, against Canada.
Is New Hampshire joining Canada?
Oh, I thought you meant we as in the United States.
No. I mean we as in New Hampshire.
I don't really have a side.
I mean, I don't know if I want to join Canada.
I don't think that Trump should be bullying them like that, but I also don't have like a side where I'm like, I am team this government versus this government.
Yeah, I like to, if we can join Canada, but
I think Trump's the aggressor.
But be completely independent of Canada, that would be great. I'll be for
What's
that.
the point of that?
I don't
just
even
be
know what that
independent.
means.
Well, I mean, I think the reason for that is because like Canada, I don't know. I guess like more. If the more people you got, the more military you got, the more.
I heard Dennis Pratt say in his interview with the Free Cities Foundation yesterday, he said that in America it's guessed, I guess, that there are 0.5% of the population is libertarian, and then in Canada it's half of that. So I guess I'd rather be with the Americans if I had to choose one. Well, we have a caller on the line. I'm just going to go ahead and answer unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Nigger.
Okay. All right. That's so stupid. I wonder if
What
they
a
realize
waste.
that doesn't get on the air. I wouldn't answer him if there wasn't dump button.
Ironically, it's not one of the 7 words you're not allowed to say.
Oh.
We just dump it anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say shows. The channels. The stations.
The stations wouldn't
that.
allow it. Yes.
Yeah.
People really don't know how to do pranks anymore. When it comes
it's like there's nothing
to
funny
call-in
about
shit,
that,
right? Like, yeah, like if you're gonna prank us, like actually prank us, like call in, and prank us. Don't like this. Just saying.
We used to have a lot of good prank callers, and they were good.
Yeah,
And they were funny.
I would
It
laugh
was a
if I had a
Yes.
good prank caller.
It was a thing back in the day.
Yes.
but like people, I don't know. Like
They've
they
lost
just-
their creativity.
Yeah, like,
there's
seriously.
just no reason to do that because I just click the dump button and we move on. And it's like, you're not offending anyone here. That word doesn't offend me. Like, not that I'm saying I like it, but it doesn't make me like, how could you say that? I just, okay, and then I dump you.
Like even the FCC doesn't even care anymore. Like a lot of these words.
So I'm saying it's not one of the 7.
Well, even if it was, like
Okay.
they don't even care anymore. Like there hasn't been a station like that's been fined in 20 years or something like that.
Yeah, but I think our stations would be mad at us.
I mean, I'm not saying we want to do it. I'm just saying that like it doesn't have the effect that people think it does.
You can actually call in and say something important. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Rising fees have made Bitcoin useless for purchases, but Dash continues to have fees less than 1 cent per transaction, and its features ensure Dash is undefeated as the most useful cryptocurrency in the marketplace. From a technical standpoint, Dash transactions are irreversible, and its network is protected from 51% attacks by their Chainlocks technology. There's no need to wait for a confirmation before considering a Dash transaction complete, so it's great for merchants. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with the Week in Review. A phone call between the US President Donald Trump and Russia's President Vladimir Putin could happen at any time, following a meeting between the Russian leader and a US envoy in Moscow on Thursday to discuss a possible ceasefire in Ukraine. Putin has listed demands from the Russian side favouring a single negotiated peace deal without first going through a 30-day truce. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Envoy Steve Witkoff is on his way back to the United States following that meeting with Russia's leader Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin says that Witkoff has information and an additional signal to give to the US President Donald Trump. And once that information is transmitted here in Washington, Putin says that he would be open to a phone call or a possible meeting with President Trump, something that President Trump has also indicated he is happy to try and do. But it's unclear how quickly this negotiated peace might happen. Russia is saying it is worried about this possible 30-day ceasefire proposal, saying it would give Ukraine time to rearm, instead suggesting that a one-and-done proposal would be much better. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has described Putin's response about a possible truce as just another Russian manipulation. Former Special Counsel for International Affairs at the US Department of Defense, Jeffrey Price, says Russia will drive a hard bargain.
I hope we are not going to be pressed on the timing. I think that Putin suspects that Trump wants a deal soon, and that might give him leverage. And my hope is that we're not in a position where we're not willing to walk away from a deal. What the Ukrainians are willing to agree to, I think, is quite reasonable. And again, it just depends on whether the Russians are going to be sincere. So Putin is clearly going to want to hold on to some of the Ukrainian territory.
Amid the tit-for-tat on US tariffs with its international competitors and partners, the French wine and spirits industry has reacted with anger at the prospect of a 200% tariff on its exports to the US that's been threatened by US President Donald Trump. France says it doesn't want a trade war, but will react firmly to safeguard the interests of its companies in the face of arbitrary measures that violate international law. Stuart Smith has more from Paris.
After the US imposed tariffs on European steel, the EU promised retaliatory tariffs on American whiskey. That's when France's alcoholic drinks industry suspected they could be Trump's next trade victims, and on Thursday they were proven right as the president posted on social media that wines, champagnes and alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU-represented countries will face a 200% tariff if the EU doesn't remove its retaliatory tariff. The US is the biggest export market for French wine and champagne, and the European Committee of Wine Companies says such a tariff, if imposed, would de facto close the US market for EU.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and that means you can call 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160 to get in on the conversation with us and change the conversation if you want to. It's Free Talk Live, and that number is 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at libertyminded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny liberty-oriented clothing at libertyminded.com. That's libertyminded.com. And with you on Free Talk Live, you've got me, Bonnie.
Mr. Penguin.
And Richie Rich.
The owner of Liberty Minded yesterday posted on my Twitter one of his t-shirt designs, and it says, dang it, I basically forgot, but it says something like, please don't mind me, I am autistic. Something like that.
Okay.
Is this a new one? Or is this one of the old ones? Because
I don't know.
I think he's had one that was like, oh no, he's got one that's like, I'm not autistic.
It's called the spectrum for a reason.
I'm a libertarian or something
Maybe
like that.
that is what it was. It's like, I'm not autistic, I'm a libertarian, but...
That's an overlapping Venn diagram.
Yeah, I was going to say, but...
Oh, yeah, I would agree with you on that 100%.
You're probably both.
Here's the thing. You're a libertarian, you're an undiagnosed autistic.
Or diagnosed.
Yeah, or diagnosed.
You're somewhere on the spectrum.
I'm saying that as a libertarian, so...
It's called the spectrum for a reason. You're on there somewhere.
Don't get too offended.
TJ told me I am... surprisingly not autistic. So I take that as a diagnosis of not autistic.
Yeah, I'm going to call him out and say that's... Oh, I can't say it on the radio.
He said I'm surprisingly mentally sound.
Yes.
He said I'm just surprisingly mentally sound in general. Like, he said he's surprised I don't have, like, depression, schizophrenia, or anything like that.
Yeah. TJ says the weirdest stuff.
You just got to turn that autistic energy into harassing your state representatives.
Yes.
And just sick them.
Yep.
Go get them, boy.
Yeah,
like letter after letter. This is an angry worded letter.
Yeah, that's one thing. It's like, if being autistic does have something to do with being, like, obsessively focused on one thing, I definitely don't have it. Because I'm like, not obsessively. I am just aggressively not focused on anything.
The best way to describe autism is that it's not so much an obsession, although that's often a trait that comes with it, but it has to do with whether or not you're better at reading or math. That's literally all it is.
I'm better at reading by a lot.
Really?
And I avoided math for so many years that I actually screwed myself over. So like in 11th grade in Texas, which was a normal good school, a 5A school where I had 800 students in my class, I just signed up for remedial math. Wait, no, like I want to get this
Bonnie,
out.
you just outed yourself as a Fed. Did you know that?
Because Feds are better at reading?
No, because
Feds are not autistic.
Because so if she's
Okay.
not autistic, then she's not a libertarian. Therefore, anyway, it's just a joke. Bad joke.
I got like really good on the reading part of the SAT, and I still only got a 25 when the most you could get is a 32 because I just can't do math. And the thing is, I purposely took remedial math in 11th grade. Then I moved to Utah and went to a 1A school with 8 people in my class, and they didn't teach us anything or care.
And Bonnie was the smartest one in class.
And I was the smartest one in class. And I was the valedictorian. Yeah, we all took the SAT, and they all studied really hard because they really cared, and I didn't study one bit. I got a 25, and the 2 second smartest kids in my class were like, we got 19s. Yeah.
That sounds like the ACT.
Oh, yeah. ACT, thank you. I took the ACT.
Isn't the
my bad.
SAT at a 1400?
No, my bad. Yes,
if
you're
you
probably
got-
right.
1600.
If you got a 25,
No.
if you got a 25 at a 1400, that's like
No,
when I took it,
meant
it was
ACT.
1600.
I don't even think
You're
you got
right.
your name right on that.
I've never taken the SAT. I only took ACT. Yeah, my bad. But yeah, I was like, I didn't care at all, and I scored 6 points above the next kid in my class who went to that school their
Well
whole
deserving
life.
of that valedictorian.
Well, yeah. I felt
6
kind
points.
of, I felt bad taking it from
25%
him.
better than the rest of the class.
And a 25 on the ACT, David, the caller from New Mexico, he told me, oh, you can go and see what that means your IQ was. Like, I've never taken an IQ score or
Okay.
test. So I went and looked, and it's like 110 to 113. I could totally accept that and be happy with that. Just a little higher than average, but I don't think I'm a genius. I think Ian is way more smart than me.
Yeah.
So I
In
could accept
certain
that.
areas because he's autistic.
But he's also good socially, so...
He's weird, man. He is so weird. I mean, I love Ian, but man, he is weird. Like in that he's like super autistic, but he doesn't it's almost but at the same time he like doesn't know that he's autistic, and so he's
Well, we took
sociable.
a test
It's so
online.
weird.
Right.
So what is it? So wait, of Ian, Ian took a test. What is
Ian and
what
I
does it
took a
say?
test online, and I got only a little bit less autistic. So we both got not autistic. I
Really?
got even less autistic than him, but not by a lot.
That test is clearly flawed.
and the trolls are always like, only an autistic person would take an online test to see if they're autistic.
Right?
But that's because everybody's telling us to. Well, we have some callers on
We
the
want
line.
confirmation.
I'm going to go to unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Don't confuse delusion with autism.
Oh, it's your boy,
So he's
Scat
not...
Eater.
I don't even get how he could be deluded, but not
Diluted.
autistic.
It's watered down.
No, I was saying
Okay,
diluted,
I know.
but I also am just like, what does that even mean? Like, oh, Ian is delusional, not autistic. That okay? Like, what is that supposed to mean?
He's mistaken. He's delusional, thinking that libertarian is the way to go, not autistic.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's because libertarians are delusional, not autistic. And no one that's autistic that has an affinity for math will gravitate to Austrian economics.
So I wanted to talk to you last week, Skeeter, and I want to make sure I get this out ahead of time.
My engineer friends prove you wrong. My engineer free stater friends. Sorry, go ahead.
On last week's Saturday show,
You can be an engineer, not autistic, Bonnie.
on last
didn't
week's
say
Saturday
that.
show, Skeeter, you indicated that like one of your goals was to prove the libertarians wrong or the Austrian school wrong. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I'm out to disprove all the fake schools out there that propose that
Got
they're
it. And that's your goal.
some form of capitalism.
Okay, so that's your goal, is to disprove all these fake schools. Got it. All right. And another thing that you bring up all the time is game theory, and you're a big fan of game theory as far as what?
Like Tragedy of the Commons, that's game theory. That's
Okay.
utilitarianism.
So,
That's an argument
so
against
you and you've also said, I believe, that you can use game theory to solve problems and to achieve goals. Am I remembering that correctly?
It's the best tool.
Okay. So game
determine the
theory is the
best
best tool
strategy.
to achieve goals. Your goal is to disprove all the fake schools out there, and your use of game theory has led you to the conclusion that the best way to achieve this goal is to lose arguments on talk radio twice a week.
Whether I lose or not is not up to your subjective opinion. That's subjective.
Okay, so you objectively lose
Yeah.
arguments every week on talk radio, and your game theory, like your philosophy and your game theory, has led you to this conclusion as the best way to disprove the fake schools. Is not like, you know, you ever, like, you know, there's writers and authors out there.
It's a trap.
Okay, it's definitely a track. I don't know what game theory would put you on the Beth trap. So there's like authors out there who's written books, and a lot of times authors who disagree will go back and forth, and they're like, you know, this is Hans Hoppe's letter to whomever, right? Or, you know,
Yeah, like
and
this is
they go
my
back.
response.
This
Yeah.
is the response, and so
I'm gonna
like
mute him while you talk.
okay, and
well,
so
I guess he can't hear you. Just Skeeter, don't talk while he's talking, so that way I don't have to mute you.
my point is, like, he calls talk
to
radio.
me and not to him.
He calls talk radio to like discuss these things with us, whereas there's the actual authors, right? Modern and, you know, past authors, but also a lot of modern day authors writing on the Mises blog, you know, Cato Institute to a lesser extent, Reason Magazine, the Future Freedom Foundation, the Foundation for Economic Education. They're posting like articles daily.
Yeah, why don't you go talk to them?
And he could reply to them in writing.
Yeah.
And compile this list of rebuttals to refute
such a good point.
to refute the school, like the modern day philosophers, or the, you know, modern day philosophers do, and also past philosophers have done.
Yeah.
And he chooses, like game theory told him, to call talk radio twice a week as the best way to refute these guys, rather than respond to them directly and have like an educational discourse that could be published later.
That's such a good point. That's an incredibly good point. In fact, I'm done talking to Skeeter because of it, and I hope he internalizes that. Thanks for the call, Skeeter.
He'll call
Yeah,
next
he
week
won't.
Saturday.
But we have another caller on the line, so I'm just going to move on. Turd Ferguson in Pennsylvania, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind? Oh.
All libertarians have autism.
Okay.
That's my philosophy, and autism at best. And
If I have autism, if I have autism, like, it just doesn't affect my life, I guess. I feel fine. I never have been told by somebody, like, you're too awkward for me to talk to. It doesn't affect my life, I guess. Nobody voted me down at the LPNH convention. Everybody likes me.
Because you're surrounded by other artists when you go to those things.
Yeah, but the other artists got voted down by at least one person.
All right.
Well, actually, me and Mikey, the Jew, both didn't get
there's
voted down.
autism, and then there's autism. You don't have autism, but you do have autism.
Okay.
Again, it's a spectrum.
Exactly.
It's just like, I get accused of having autism for simply caring about things that a lot of girls don't. But, like,
Yes,
I've been a victim of police.
That's autism.
Most women have not been a victim of police. I didn't care before then.
You've got autism light.
It's not like I was just like, I found this on the internet and it's interesting me and I'm going to talk about it. Like, I got into this because I was like, somebody's got to do something about this. I was victimized, you know? So I feel like it's not the same thing as like, I have this special interest. You know, it's just like I want to change the world.
Your affinity for ASMR stuff?
Yeah, I do like ASMR stuff. Is that autism? Autism, I mean? I like the soap cutting.
I would put it in that category.
I like the soap cutting and the chalk crushing.
Okay, see?
I don't like mouth sounds or eating.
Normal people don't care about those things, nor do they like seek it out to listen to.
But I'm also not like, I don't know, disturbed? Wait, I guess I'm disturbed by the mouth sounds.
Can you not chew like a cow?
Yeah, sometimes I have been like,
I'm getting very angry.
So we're diagnosing. Let me just understand this. We're diagnosing you on the air for autism.
I guess so.
No, we're
past that.
We've
Well,
made
isn't TJ more of a-
we've made the conclusion. We're trying to like supplant our conclusion with evidence.
Isn't TJ more of an expert? He said I'm not.
Yeah, he's wrong.
Appeal to authority.
Oh yeah, true.
I actually think that the best ASMR is the mouth movements, as long as they're from females. That's actually the best.
Well,
one.
if you mean the mouth,
I have a question.
Well, hold on. If you mean the mouth movements,
Do you have
where
moaning girls as like your ringtone?
Ew. Wait. If you mean the mouth ASMR where they're just like reading a book and it's kind of like the whispery, kind of like lip moving normal in speech, that one's not horrible.
No, I mean, no.
Like
I mean,
spit
literally
sounds.
making sounds.
Disgusting. Disgusting.
Yeah.
Get some of that for your ringtone, or set it as your alarm and wake up to that every morning.
Are you sick? I mean, really? Because you sound sick.
Yeah, I'm very sick. I'm probably sicker than I have been in at least a decade, and I'm miserable. And currently, my ringtone is "Under the Bridge" by the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Of course,
I have a question though for disingenuous. I have a question.
Mine is the theme from Knight Rider.
Because, so when I called a couple weeks ago and somebody hung up on me, I think it was Stu in the middle of my call.
What a jerk.
I was discussing with Chris about immigration policy in the libertarian philosophy and in New Hampshire.
This one, Mr. Penguin?
The argument that
probably Chris R.
Yes.
Oh.
And yeah, disingenuous Chris. And I think he was making the argument that he's fine allowing certain groups to immigrate to the United States or even to New Hampshire that hates his philosophy and would basically do everything they could to vote against it.
When was this? Because last week Saturday was you weren't on last week.
No, I was on last week. This is he's holding a grudge, I guess, from like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
All right. Well, good. Could wait for you to come back on to address you directly.
Well, I didn't have a chance to ask you. So my question is, Chris, once you create your free society,
way to dox him too. Call him Mr. Penguin.
I know he keeps calling him that.
What a jerk.
Well, that's what I did use.
Sorry.
I mean, that's what I was calling myself for half a decade.
Yeah,
here,
fair. But we have another Chris, don't we?
It's true.
And he was just going to go by Lime Chris, but it wasn't sticking for some reason.
So for those who don't know my full name, it's Christopher Wade. So you can stop.
And your mailing address?
Yeah, you can stop doxing me.
Don't try to Gmail him though. He's anti-Gmail.
Don't try to Gmail.
If you Gmail me, I won't get it.
Okay, so in his perfect libertarian world.
Question, in your anarcho-capitalist utopia that you're creating in New Hampshire, once you've created it and it's done, and I want to move there after you've done all the work for me, you wouldn't initiate force against me, right, and prevent me from coming in, would you?
No, of course not.
Well, that solves that problem.
If that's the case, then I can't wait for you to. I'm actually rooting for you because I want you to create the free society, and then when it's done, I will move there.
I was laughing so hard because last week he made a whole hour-long call about this.
It's a terrible attitude to have, right? Like the people that moved here early.
I think it's a good attitude.
I know it's beneficial for you to have that attitude, but the people that moved here early would probably rather associate
me.
No, you didn't move here early.
Well, he did, but then he moved away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Allegedly.
Okay. Well, I take it back then, because if you moved here early and then worked
defining early. What year was it?
Well, I mean they got the Free State Project hit the number in 2016.
I was one of the last early movers. I arrived in Manchester, New Hampshire about 2 weeks before the move was triggered.
Yeah,
okay, what year?
Early 2016.
Oh.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And you found that it wasn't free enough, so you moved back to Pennsylvania.
That makes a lot of sense.
I found that I didn't want to spend my entire life working towards trying to accomplish a mission that might not ever be accomplished.
Did you read the statement of intent and the whole goal of the Free State Project? Because it's literally to accomplish something in our lifetime. It's not this thing that we're going to have one day with zero.
I'm trying to explain it to you.
Well, you act like you've never even read the statement of intent, and then you're like, but you moved, so.
Well, I signed it.
You signed it without knowing what it said.
And the reason why I left is because. Well, the reason why I left is because I didn't want to spend my entire life.
Why did you sign it in the first place?
That might not ever be accomplished.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that signed it. So, okay, I hear what you're saying.
To live in a free society, but the problem is.
I hear what you're saying. Do you find that your situation?
You keep cutting me off, but.
I don't know.
Okay, well, that was a long pause for you to jump back in. So you moved back to my question for you is, I understand what you're saying. You didn't want to spend your life working towards a goal that you found to be unwieldy or unreasonable. What's that? Go ahead.
You didn't even let me finish what I was saying, but go ahead.
I'm just trying to distill it down to why you moved back. And what I heard you say was.
What do you got to go on?
I'll tell you why I moved back.
Okay.
It's because the libertarian philosophy allows immigration and people that hate your entire ideology to move into your place.
Yeah, not Pennsylvania, though.
The libertarians want 20,000 people. I chose Pennsylvania because I don't care about it anymore. But look, the problem is that when you're trying to move 20,000 people to a state to influence local elections and whatnot, if you are currently allowing just as many immigrants who ruin their state in Massachusetts to come up and ruin your state too by voting.
Well, here's the thing. When there was a study done that showed that the large majority of people moving from Massachusetts come here and vote red, not blue. So who would move from Massachusetts?
Also doesn't make it a free.
I mean, red doesn't.
I'm not saying that that means they're freedom loving, but they are changing the way that they were voting in Massachusetts, and red is definitely more freedom oriented than blue
currently.
I think on some issues that's true.
On majority.
So you move back to Pennsylvania for the immigration issue, and what that would indicate to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you partially said it. Well, see, now you've finished, and I would like to get my thought out and my question out. You move back to Pennsylvania over that issue, fine. And to me, that would just indicate that, and you said it, you don't care anymore, that freedom is just not a top priority for you, which is also fine. It's not a top priority for a lot of people. But then,
well, it's a top priority. I just don't have more freedom in New Hampshire than I would in any other state.
Okay.
Except income tax.
So,
and there are
that's a big one.
Let me ask you
the other problem.
Let me ask you something then. Why did you move to New Hampshire in the first place when it wasn't the whole point of the Free State Project was literally to change New Hampshire?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of people that have moved and realized it's not for them and moved away.
Sure, but why did you move in the first place if you had read the Free State Project statement of intent?
Because I thought that what was going on there was working, and it clearly wasn't. And once I had eyes on the ground in New Hampshire, I realized that it was a joke.
Which is fine. I mean, you're not the only one to hold that opinion.
Does that upset you?
No.
Why would it upset us?
Yeah, I know.
But my question still remains, like, if you value freedom, right, if freedom is still a top priority for you, like, do you really think that Pennsylvania is better for freedom than New Hampshire?
Well, see, I instead of taking Carla Gerrick's advice and staying in New Hampshire to accomplish probably nothing, I instead took Harry Brown's advice and decided to free my mind and file taxes in a very specific way and do some very specific things that I read and how I found freedom in an unfree world. And it turns out that that's a way better way to live your life, in my opinion.
Okay. And so your individual freedom is greater in Pennsylvania.
A bunch of people to move me.
Your individual freedom is greater in Pennsylvania than your individual freedom would have been had you stayed in New Hampshire.
One thing I don't understand is he could do that and live in New Hampshire. And I'm not saying I want him to or care. I'm just saying, like, it's not like an answer to the question, because you could easily free your mind and live in New Hampshire.
I know why he is. I know why. It has to do with the fact that he's concerned about economics, not freedom. Like, we think about freedom in like all sorts of different ways, but conservatives don't. They think about it in more of an economic sense, and that's exactly how he's thinking about it, which is why he thinks we haven't accomplished anything or won't accomplish anything.
No. Well, you haven't made any more social freedoms either, really. But let me just and I don't really consider a law to not wear my seatbelt. I don't really consider that the epitome of freedom. But
I love it right now.
Why
I'm never wearing it right now.
And this is what I've been trying to sort of.
These are like little freedoms, like little tiny bits of freedom, but we haven't accomplished our goal yet anyway. So it's kind of a moot point. But that doesn't mean we're not accomplishing little things along the way.
But it still begs the question, Turd.
That's the main reason why I left.
It still begs the question: if if you're taking Harry Brown's advice and you're staying in Pennsylvania because you freed your mind, why even threaten to come back once we've achieved our goal? Like, it still doesn't make sense. If you're going to be more free here, you can already be more free here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to answer that. So the reason why I didn't want to help you guys, and I've said this already, but I don't want to spend my entire life trying to accomplish a goal that might not ever be accomplished.
Right. But you also said
creating a free society that might not ever become free.
Right. But you also said if we free the society, you would come back.
I don't want to spend my life
Heard.
Standing outside.
You don't have to repeat it.
State House and yelling at a bunch of politicians.
Heard.
You know that like nobody does that, and honestly, like nobody is just like grueling away daily, except Ian when he's out of prison, but that's because he likes to, at like freeing New Hampshire. Nobody's like everybody just like lives their lives.
There are so many things that people do though. Like it's such a variety of things. It's not one thing. Like yes, some people protest, some people go to the state house and get elected. You know, some people run for local offices.
My question still remains though. If you freed your mind in Pennsylvania, why threaten to come back once we've achieved our goal? You're not going to be any freer here.
That's the thing. I don't believe anyone that tells me they freed their mind.
Because if I get to also live in a free society where I can do whatever I want, I'll move back, and that's always going to be better.
If you get it,
but it's already better then, because New Hampshire is freer than Pennsylvania.
If you get put in prison right now for some reason, you're going to realize that your mind isn't more free than your body or whatever you're talking about. Yeah, I just think that's made up BS that people just say.
New Hampshire's already freer than Pennsylvania.
By a lot.
By a lot.
Yeah.
You can free your mind here and still be freer, just the same as when we accomplish the goal.
We need to continue this when we get back. I have a few words
if he wants to stay on, he can stay on.
He's got to make sense, though.
More is coming up. It's Free Talk Live. Don't go anywhere. And the number, if you'd like to get in on the conversation, is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming up.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with the Week in Review. A phone call between the US President Donald Trump and Russia's President Vladimir Putin could happen at any time, following a meeting between the Russian leader and a US envoy in Moscow on Thursday to discuss a possible ceasefire in Ukraine. Putin has listed demands from the Russian side favouring a single negotiated peace deal without first going through a 30-day truce. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Envoy Steve Witkoff is on his way back to the United States following that meeting with Russia's leader Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin says that Witkoff has information and an additional signal to give to the US President Donald Trump. And once that information is transmitted here in Washington, Putin says that he would be open to a phone call or a possible meeting with President Trump, something that President Trump has also indicated he is happy to try and do. But it's unclear how quickly this negotiated peace might happen. Russia is saying it is worried about this possible 30-day ceasefire proposal, saying it would give Ukraine time to rearm, instead suggesting that a one-and-done proposal would be much better. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has described Putin's response about a possible truce as just another Russian manipulation. Former Special Counsel for International Affairs at the US Department of Defense, Jeffrey Price, says Russia will drive a hard bargain.
I hope we are not going to be pressed on the timing. I think that Putin suspects that Trump wants a deal soon, and that might give him leverage. And my hope is that we're not in a position where we're not willing to walk away from a deal. What the Ukrainians are willing to agree to, I think, is quite reasonable. And again, it just depends on whether the Russians are going to be sincere. So Putin is clearly going to want to hold on to some of the Ukrainian territory.
Amid the tit-for-tat on US tariffs with its international competitors and partners, the French wine and spirits industry has reacted with anger at the prospect of a 200% tariff on its exports to the US that's been threatened by US President Donald Trump. France says it doesn't want a trade war, but will react firmly to safeguard the interests of its companies in the face of arbitrary measures that violate international law. Stuart Smith has more from Paris.
After the US imposed tariffs on European steel, the EU promised retaliatory tariffs on American whiskey. That's when France's alcoholic drinks industry suspected they could be Trump's next trade victims. And on Thursday, they were proven right as the president posted on social media that wines, champagnes and alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU-represented countries will face a 200% tariff if the EU doesn't remove its retaliatory tariff. The US is the biggest export market for French wine and champagne, and the European Committee of Wine Companies says such a tariff, if imposed, would de facto close the US market for EU winemakers.
I know I shouldn't, but these muffins are delicious.
And we'll share our favorite recipes later in the hour, but first our guest says don't give in to road rage, stay calm behind the wheel, and coolly plot your road revenge. Danny Preston is a defensive driving instructor who teaches people how to control their temper behind the wheel. Welcome, Danny.
Well, thanks for having me. Danny, there's nothing I hate more than getting cut off.
That drives me nuts. I want to scream out my window.
Getting into an argument with a stranger isn't going to accomplish anything but stress you out.
Well, how should you respond instead?
In 1996, some guy gave me the middle finger after I cut him off. I recognized him from TV. That's when I decided to become a defensive driving instructor, developing the skills I needed to eventually be invited on his show as an expert. Now, once you're there, it's just a simple matter of switching out his muffins with the ones you made yourself. How many did you eat?
What? I don't know.
Thank you so much for sharing your tips, Danny.
Danny is not my true name.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. We have a couple callers on the line, but you can still get in on the conversation with us, and you can change the subject. You can bring up whatever's on your mind because it's Free Talk Live. And I'd like to thank Neil for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Neil went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks to Neil and everyone who supports us. And again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Mr. Penguin.
And Richie Rich.
And we were talking to Turd Ferguson in Pennsylvania in the last hour, and you guys had things you still wanted to ask him because he says he moved to New Hampshire for the Free State Project, which is a project where we're trying to get 20,000 people to move to New Hampshire to have enough influence over the population, politics, culture, to have an actual important, or maybe not important,
liberty in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have
That's
an
exactly
influential enough group to have liberty in our lifetime. And Turd moved here in 2016 for that, but he moved before even living here a year because he decided that he wanted to instead free his mind and live in Pennsylvania with a free mind. And
which is fine, right? Like, I'm not harshing on him for that. But he's got some internal contradictions that needs to be resolved. And I think Penguin had some other questions.
Yeah, so you guys had some more questions for him. So, Turd, you're on Free Talk Live. Are you still there?
Yeah, I spent a couple of years, a few years actually, in New Hampshire. So
I don't know why I just thought you said a year.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, and I'm not sure what internal contradictions you're talking about, but I'd love to be enlightened.
Oh, I already said, right? You moved you don't want perfect freedom because you're freed your mind in Pennsylvania. However, once we have perfect freedom here, you're threatening to move back, right? But you won't stay here for more freedom than Pennsylvania.
Helping you.
You don't have to help. I don't help.
Most people don't help.
I don't do anything. This is like the most help I give.
90% of the people who are here, who have moved, don't do anything.
Yeah, this was a whole conversation with people that I was talking about who are activists. We were like, how can we activate some libertarians that are here but like don't even interact with other free staters?
Yeah. I mean, like the maximum activism I do is this radio show. Otherwise, I live my life, but I'm substantially more free than I am anywhere else in the country.
Yeah.
Especially moving from Hawaii, because on the ranking, Hawaii's like 49th, and I went from 49th to 1. Right? So, like, big improvement. But I'm not going back to Hawaii because much worse, even if my mind is free.
Okay, well, New Hampshire's in the top 5, and I'm in the top 20. And, I really don't feel dramatically different here. I don't feel any less free at all, really.
That's fine.
So, and
nobody cares.
Difference because I don't have to, hear the autists or shovel mounds of snow off my car every winter.
So then say that. That's what you should be leading with. You should be like, you should say, yeah. First of all, it does snow there, but
Pennsylvania gets worse snow than here.
Well, I don't know about that, but
maybe depending on where you are.
I think that the thing is, Turd, it seems like
the most retarded statement I've ever heard.
It sounds Turd. It sounds like you have more.
I lived in both places.
Yeah, he did. It sounds like you have an internal contradiction because you won't lead with the truth. The truth is you moved because you didn't like the people you met here and you didn't like the weather. Just say that. Like it's like you made this convoluted thing in your mind to feel somehow like superior. Yeah.
And nobody cares. Like, people come and go.
No, I don't feel superior.
Right? People have moved for the free state. Like, good activists.
How many?
Right? Like, really good activists. Really, like, high-level activists have gotten burnt out and left.
Peter.
Who? Peter?
Peter.
Oh, yeah, fine.
If I'm
Peter.
saying it right.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, I'll take both of those.
You know what I think that is a little bit different, though? A lot of people who burnt out, it's not that they don't like being here. A lot of times they come back, too. So, like, I don't think that's it.
Which is fine.
This is more of a case of, like, demoralization here.
He's threatening to come back once we do it.
Yeah, a lot of them don't come back, including me.
Yeah, but that's, like, who cares?
How many people have you lost?
And they don't track that number.
How many people have you lost?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But you know what we do track is the number of reps that we've got that are libertarians, and we've reached 100 in the House. We've 100 state reps in the House, and
running as Republicans, correct?
Yes, and that's the superior method.
It's irrelevant what they
right
run
now. It's
as. What matters is how they vote. And as far as voting, we've got about 100 libertarians in the House and 5 now. Libertarians in the Senate, and that's out of 24.
Insane.
Right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
5 out of 24 is amazing, and the 5 out of 24 have only occurred in the last couple of years. So massive increases, over the last since 2016, since over 2 decades. We've had that's a fourth of the population of the state house are libertarians.
Yeah, and he makes like turnover is a bad thing. Right, people leave,
people die,
new people die.
Yep.
If somebody finds out they're not compatible, they should leave.
Right,
Yeah.
but we get fresh meat all the time coming in who are like activated and invigorated and ready to go.
I would encourage, and I have always thought we should have a program to help conservatives and people on the left move out of state.
Yeah.
We'll pack you up. Please leave.
There are
you moved here and you found out you weren't a libertarian.
There's some people.
Great. Let's help you move.
They're
the
dead
GTFO
serious.
wagon.
There is one. There's this. This is happening. There are people. Nobody's taking them up on it, but they're called the Progressive State Project, and they will pay you to move out of New Hampshire.
That's right.
And they're dead serious. I thought it was a joke, but no, they're dead serious.
Yeah.
Nobody's taking them up on it.
Turd should have stuck around. He could have got like a free ride back to Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Just dye your hair blue or something.
That's what I'm saying. Like what he's raising as a problem. Nobody cares about, and it's not really a problem. People come, people go.
Yeah.
You're not compatible. Like again, I've also said on this show that for people who like value freedom but are geographically locked to their location, right? Like they can't move. They've got too many ties, business ties, family ties, certain programs, whatever. I talked to a dude in Massachusetts, and I was like, why don't you just move? You like freedom so much. You're like, we're right there. He's like, my kids are autistic, and Massachusetts has a really good program for autistic kids, and I gotta wait. Like, you're rolling your eyes, whatever, but that's his reason. But what you can do from where you are is still be an outpost and an advocate for the Free State Project and an advocate for New Hampshire. And when you're in your little libertarian circles and your little 5-man meetup groups, encourage those people to move if they're not tied down.
You can also tell New Hampshire state reps that are Liberty reps on Twitter, hey, you should put in bills that do this and that, because if there's something that's like you want in New Hampshire and that's keeping you from moving, you should talk to state reps about that.
Legalize marijuana.
The reason I roll my eyes is that everybody has an excuse, and everybody can come up with an excuse.
Yeah.
I could have made up the excuse, I have my business here, and I did have a business there. One of them I shut down. And I also had just bought a house 2 years prior. I could have said, it's not economically feasible for me to move, but I didn't let that stop me. I did move. I did sell the house. I didn't, I ended up basically losing 2 years worth of, mortgage payments, in order to move. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to lose those people and make them out to be bad people. They have a role.
I'm not
they
saying
can be
bad
recruiters.
I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying that maybe I'm a little sick of hearing excuses, but it's
I'm the caretaker for my grandma. Once she passes away, fine. In the interim, recruit.
That's fine, but then come back, right?
Do you want somebody here that, Penguin, do you want somebody here that, they don't take it that seriously? If it's just one little thing and just an excuse, it's not that serious. Maybe they shouldn't be here until they get more serious about it. That's the thing. I wasn't going to move from Texas to New Hampshire just because I liked the ideas of liberty until things got super serious and COVID lockdown happened.
I wouldn't have moved if they hadn't been serious either.
Exactly. So maybe we just need some of these people to marinate in tyranny.
So even Ian doesn't like those people, right? We want people who want to come and want to work towards it and help out.
I just want to be clear. I didn't move because of COVID. I moved long before COVID. I moved because the situation's already terrible everywhere.
Yeah, and you were in New Jersey.
New Jersey.
What made the difference to me was the fact that people were actually moving, right? I'd heard about the Free State Project when it first got off the ground, a couple decades ago, and I was still in college, but I'm like, okay, that's never going to go anywhere because it never ever goes anywhere. But then in around 2014, 2015, sometime around there, I heard about the Free State Project again, and I was ecstatic when I found out that people had actually moved and
we're doing things.
And we're doing things. And that's what got me motivated to move. And I think it's one of the best decisions of my life was to move.
Sometimes it's the opposite of what happens to you. Sometimes what happens to you is the thing that makes somebody not want to move, and I find that ridiculous too. Like, there was this person that told me recently, and it's not like I think he's a ridiculous person, it's just his reasoning I didn't like. He said that he didn't move for 5 years where he might have moved otherwise because he didn't like Christopher Cantwell's antics.
Oh, well, that's terrible reason.
That's the most insane excuse
I told him, he said
like,
said the words like, Chris Cantwell kept me from moving, and I said, Chris Cantwell did not keep you from moving.
No.
You kept you from moving.
Yeah.
And it was that whole argument that, like, he made us look bad. Like, you should just not allow anyone else to make you look bad. Just
how do you even control that? Like, we're libertarians. We don't control other people, you know?
Right.
It's
And
like,
I had to
guilt by
accept that.
association.
I mean, look, we kicked him off Free Talk Live. I mean, what
Guilt
more
by
do you want us to
association.
do, right? Like,
Yeah, I had to get over that thought process because I was thinking, like, LPNH's Twitter makes us look bad, and I'm mad about that. And I had to get consistent with my logic because I don't like when people say that about, like, Ian's activism.
Yeah.
Ian's activism makes us look bad.
Well, you can also comment or retweet LPNH,
Exactly.
things and rebut it.
Yeah, with your
Right?
tweet.
Drown it out with more logical representations.
and that's exactly, we should be using our words to, when somebody does or says something that's not libertarian, we should call them out for it.
Well, I do want to say...
Send a philosophical letter to them. Have this debate.
I do want to say thank you to Turd for calling, but we have other callers on the line, so I'm going to go to this unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I'd like to refer to something you guys talked about earlier before this discussion in regards to Elon Musk, Doge, that sort of thing.
Okay.
I think there is a major concern in my camp. First of all, I think the chainsaw approach is absolutely ridiculous. But Elon Musk has recently, now I've had no opinions on the guy up until now, pretty much, not going to lie. I didn't use any of his products.
What is your camp, by the way, before you get too far on?
I'm more of a left-wing individual, New Deal Democrat style, although I distance myself from the current Democratic Party. But I've had some concerns because he's been on podcasts lately and on X, spreading misinformation about Social Security. And I think he's going to use that as a preface to attempt to cut the program, which would be absolutely disastrous, considering it is without a doubt the single most successful government program in the history of this country and potentially the world.
Oh, defend that.
Yes, please.
It's successful because it's working extremely well. It's keeping 2/3 of our seniors out of poverty for 50% of our seniors. It's the only income they have. And it is extremely self-sufficient. And I keep seeing a lot of talk from Elon about, it's a Ponzi scheme.
But it is. They already admitted, the government admitted that my generation won't get it.
That's not true. That's not true. That is an absolute lie. Nobody has admitted
It's not
that.
a lie, so please don't say I'm lying.
I'll explain. I'll explain why. So what you're referring to is the Social Security Trust Fund, which was established in the early 1980s. And what that was effectively at the end of every year, the surplus they did not pay out to beneficiaries would get put into a trust fund. Well, now there are so many beneficiaries, the trust fund is running out. However, after the trust fund runs out, it is still a mandatory expenditure, right? So the money that goes to Social Security that gets collected from payroll tax, or if you're a business owner doing a 1099, whatever, you have to pay your portion of it as well. That automatically gets allocated to Social Security. They are not allowed to divert that money anywhere else under any circumstance.
What if
it still sounds like a failure? Like,
what if I, as a financially responsible?
No. Hold on, real quick, Bonnie. That's not a failure because it's still going to be able to fund itself. So it's
you're saying it's not a total failure. I'm saying it sounds like a failure. Like, it shouldn't have done that. That shouldn't have happened.
No, I agree. They should have never allowed the trust fund to get to a point where it could run out. They simply should have removed the cap on income so that after your first $170,000 you pay as well. But at the moment, you say, our generation's not going to get it. I'm probably around the same age as you. I'm 28. But
I'm 28.
Okay. What if I, as a financially responsible individual, think that the money they take from me for Social Security could be better invested with a higher ROI for my future, and I want to opt out?
So you completely misunderstand the program. I'll address that in a sec. I'm just going to say, Bonnie, after 2035, when that runs out, it's been estimated by the actuary table that Social Security will continue to pay 83% of its benefits until 2098, at which point it will pay 73% of its benefits. So that's not even close to not getting it. But to address your point, you're looking at Social Security the wrong way. It is not a retirement account. It was never meant to be a retirement account. It is social insurance. There's a very big difference.
Well, no,
It's like if I purchase,
not if you're saying that 90% of all seniors or whatever, that's their sole source of income.
50%.
Okay,
That's
not insurance. That's an income.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It was insurance. They did not make the decision to save for their retirement, or factors outside of their control may have made it impossible for them.
That's not what insurance is supposed to do. Insurance is supposed to cover you in a situation where there's something unanticipated, not cover you when you make stupid decisions. If I crash my car intentionally, my insurance company's not going to pay out.
Well, here's the thing. Social Security is there if you don't save for your retirement, or, which is often the case, especially nowadays,
it's a moral hazard because now people don't save for their retirement because they count on Social Security.
True. That's not true. Of course,
then there wouldn't be 50% of people without an income.
Again, there are things outside of people's control.
Not 50% of people.
Yeah,
50% of people are not
in America, especially not boomers.
No.
Let me ask you a different question, all right? Because I don't think any of us actually object to a Social Security program per se.
I object.
Hold on. Okay. No, you're objecting to a government Social Security program, not a Social Security program. So would you object to having a government program that was completely funded by the voluntary participants in place of what we have now, which is mandatory?
That's what I'm saying. I want to opt out.
No, because here's the thing. I'll tell you why. And this is why I'm glad we have a Social Security insurance program, which is effectively what it is. It's not a retirement program. It's there just in case. If you don't need it, cool. I have insurance on my house. I hope I never have to use it, but if I do, well, at least I had it there. But no, you can't have it that way because way too many people would opt out because, hey, we're humans, we're greedy, or not just greedy. We think we can do things better. Something happens. Well, I will speak for myself.
I probably agree with that to a large degree, but I don't think
people are going to make stupid decisions.
Yeah,
you know how many people?
And why is it that we shouldn't allow people to make stupid decisions? Because the fact that we're babying them to the point in which those stupid decisions are actually having a dramatic impact at them later in life, that's a cause of people not learning because we didn't let them make stupid decisions when they were much younger.
We allowed people to make stupid decisions prior to 1935, prior to the establishment of Social Security.
I don't want to pay for other people's stupid decisions.
Well, too bad. You live in this country and you abide by the social contract. I didn't
agree to a social contract. None of us agreed to the social contract. That was something that you're trying to force on us.
You reside in the greatest country on the face of this planet.
That's debatable right now.
Yeah, I disagree with that too.
Absolutely not debatable.
Even if it is, I would like to see it better.
It's the least. It might be the least. You might be able to describe it as the least bad system, but it's certainly not the greatest country.
There's still room, much like New Hampshire not being perfect. There's still room for improvement, and I would say dropping Social Security would be an improvement.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You live in a relatively safe country with a great variety of services made available to you, the greatest economy in the world. That's not deniable.
Do you know why some it's only relatively safe?
And it can be improved.
It's only relatively safe
removing Social Security
because there are people who get their lives funded to do drugs and just be dangerous people who aren't contributing anything to the society. Those are the type of people that make it safe.
You believe that there's this epidemic of welfare queens then? Just taking drugs.
There is an epidemic of welfare queens,
it doesn't even need to be an epidemic. If there was one, I would want them off.
Yep.
I think Bonnie is right, but I think it's not what you're perceiving it as, because you're perceiving it as this conservative thing in terms of like actual welfare queens, like, whatever. But she would be including, I do believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Bonnie, but you would also be including the corporations as well here, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, those people are dangerous.
Those are also welfare queens.
They do things immoral,
they actually, and I think you would agree with this from somebody somebody who has a perspective from the left. I think you would agree with this. The corporations actually get more money than
the average welfare queen.
Right, the average welfare queen that the conservatives are always complaining
about.
But
the crackheads in the front yard of a Section 8 housing unit are also a problem. So,
but they deserve the Social Security insurance because they made bad decisions.
They don't get Social Security unless they're disabled, which, for the record, the government doesn't just hand out disability. It's extremely hard to get on. So
it's also hard to get off.
Yeah, it's also hard to get off, and I would agree that's absolutely ridiculous. But Social Security is not some ridiculous.
It's not that hard to claim disability, by the way.
It is.
I know tons of people. I know tons of people that don't really have that much wrong with them. They are on SSI or whatever it's called in New Hampshire.
Lonnie's social circle is representative of the entire population that's on disability. No, it is really hard.
You lost me when you said I have to be forced to pay for somebody else's bad mistakes.
Because you live in a society that is functional and you have to pay for that. If you don't,
I don't. I don't want to. I want to opt out.
I would.
If your Social Security system is so great and as beneficial as you say it is, then people would voluntarily enter into it because they see the value.
Well, you can't tell him that because this is the only thing that makes him feel strong. Is like the government.
I'm not trying to feel strong.
The government, protecting his right to have you do what he wants you to do.
The fact that
he doesn't have to put one, finger on,
the fact that it has to be funded coercively, the fact that people need to be forced into it, makes it ipso facto a bad program. Because good programs don't require force and good ideas don't need coercion.
And you want to get really mad, caller? I don't fund it because I don't pay taxes like that. The only taxes I pay are gas.
That makes no difference to me.
The only taxes I pay are gas and property, and that's just because I can't get out of them.
Oh, you can get out of the gas tax. You got to lie. There's
but you pay for it when you pay gas.
Yeah, but there's some gas stations in New Hampshire, at least, that do rural gas. That's meant for farm equipment, and since farm equipment doesn't go on the roads, you don't pay the gas tax.
Oh, interesting.
But you got to find the gas stations that have the rural gas.
I probably have to go really far. I don't know.
You probably do, to a rural area. But you want to stop paying the gas tax, just get a tank.
The real libertarian solution to this problem would be
what?
Voluntarism.
Well, buying solar panels from China, setting those up, and charging your electric vehicle.
I have been thinking recently it'd be great to have an electric vehicle. Not a Tesla, because I don't want to get targeted.
Any of the taxes.
Thank you for the call, caller.
For the tariffs, I guess, maybe.
Okay. You're talking about just the gas tax.
Yeah, you can avoid the gas tax if you get solar panels and charge your vehicle over the solar panels instead of the.
And I'm working on the property tax, but.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a long-term legal battle. So,
but if you just lie to the gas station when you fill up your tank, just say no, you take like a 15-gallon gas can.
Do I have to be wearing a straw hat?
It wouldn't hurt.
I have a straw piece in my mouth.
But if you're not going to drive your car up to it. You got to go take a gas can up to it, a 100-gallon gas can.
Park a mile down the road and walk. So
whatever.
I look like I'm a farmer.
Yeah. And you say no, this is for my tractor.
Look,
first I'll get a farmer's tan.
This just seems crazy to me.
603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up. 603-283-6160. We're going to go back to your calls when in the next segment. So there are more coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. Forkfest.party.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with the Week in Review. A phone call between the US President Donald Trump and Russia's President Vladimir Putin could happen at any time, following a meeting between the Russian leader and a US envoy in Moscow on Thursday to discuss a possible ceasefire in Ukraine. Putin has listed demands from the Russian side favouring a single negotiated peace deal without first going through a 30-day truce. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Envoy Steve Witkoff is on his way back to the United States following that meeting with Russia's leader Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin says that Witkoff has information and an additional signal to give to the US President Donald Trump. And once that information is transmitted here in Washington, Putin says that he would be open to a phone call or a possible meeting with President Trump, something that President Trump has also indicated he is happy to try and do. But it's unclear how quickly this negotiated peace might happen. Russia is saying it is worried about this possible 30-day ceasefire proposal, saying it would give Ukraine time to rearm, instead suggesting that a one-and-done proposal would be much better. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has described Putin's response about a possible truce as just another Russian manipulation. Former Special Counsel for International Affairs at the US Department of Defense, Jeffrey Price, says Russia will drive a hard bargain.
I hope we are not going to be pressed on the timing. I think that Putin suspects that Trump wants a deal soon, and that might give him leverage. And my hope is that we're not in a position where we're not willing to walk away from a deal. What the Ukrainians are willing to agree to, I think, is quite reasonable. And again, it just depends on whether the Russians are going to be sincere. So Putin is clearly going to want to hold on to some of the Ukrainian territory.
Amid the tit-for-tat on US tariffs with its international competitors and partners, the French wine and spirits industry has reacted with anger at the prospect of a 200% tariff on its exports to the US that's been threatened by US President Donald Trump. France says it doesn't want a trade war, but will react firmly to safeguard the interests of its companies in the face of arbitrary measures that violate international law. Stuart Smith has more from Paris.
After the US imposed tariffs on European steel, the EU promised retaliatory tariffs on American whiskey. That's when France's alcoholic drinks industry suspected they could be Trump's next trade victims, and on Thursday they were proven right as the president posted on social media that wines, champagnes and alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU-represented countries will face a 200% tariff if the EU doesn't remove its retaliatory tariff. The US is the biggest export market for French wine and champagne, and the European Committee of Wine Companies says such a tariff, if imposed, would de facto close the US market for EU.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live talk radio that you control. That means you can call 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And we've been podcasting since podcasts were a thing, but we're launching a new podcast anyway. Our new podcast is a 30 to 45-minute show releasing once a week. I think it's changing to twice a week, so we might need to change this live read. But do you know Richie Rich?
I don't know, but I just know the last one was like Space Monkeys, and it was hilarious. So continue. Twice a week, maybe. I know she's been producing a lot of content. I don't know what the release schedule is.
Somebody told me that Aria, put on Facebook that she's considering making it not twice a week. I messed that up. Once every 2 weeks is what I meant. Yeah, I mixed that up in my head. So
that's just her being lazy then. Get to work.
She said that it's a lot of time for the editing, so I don't think it's that.
Moved in with her boyfriend and now she's got no time for actual stuff.
That happens. So our new podcast is a 30 to 45 minute show releasing maybe once a week, and you can find it at freetalkcast.com. It's brought to you by the same people who bring you Free Talk Live, and we'd love for you to check it out. The existing radio archive isn't going anywhere. This is just a new show designed from the start to be a podcast, so check it out at freetalkcast.com. And with you on Free Talk Live, you've got me, Bonnie.
Mr. Penguin.
And Richie Rich.
And we have a caller on the line, so it's going to go right to our phone calls. It's been nice with lots of calls tonight, so even if we disagreed on the line, I love the conversation. Yeah, it's the best.
If you're on the left, please call in. We need more lefties calling in because honestly,
I didn't know that. I said something wrong about Social Security.
Libertarians
it's interesting.
Agree on. They tend to agree on the what is it? I want to say social liberal side. It's the economic side that we disagree with you on for the most part.
So,
and even if you were wrong on some minor point about the Social Security, like what Penguin brought up during the break was a couple of things, right? Number one, the original people that received it had not paid in enough. There was no way, because the program started and they just got the payouts without any funding behind it, because they were the first ones to go in.
Wouldn't it be great?
Wouldn't it be great? Yeah, and it was great for them.
And their houses were like $120.
They literally were basically stealing from their future grandkids,
which they still have to do.
Yeah.
Because when they take, if you were working a job, they take your money against your will, right? Which he was for. Right? You got to pay into this because you live in society, right? They take your money, and it's not like they set it aside and invest it so that you have something for the future. That's what I would like to do as an individual, but they take it from against my will.
And here's the other thing.
But they pay out the current generation of recipients with it.
The pyramid scheme, let me explain something else too about Social Security. So the pyramid scheme actually does continue to work as long as the population keeps going up. The problem is when your population starts to decline, that's when the program fails, because you can't have, if you only have one person working for every 5 individuals who have retired and are great in Social Security, that one salary doesn't cover those 5 people who are.
They'll raise the taxes. That's how they'll keep it going.
Except you can't take more than 100% of somebody's income. That's working.
That's true. But Social Security is only like 7.5 for 15% or whatever of a paycheck or whatever.
It's not a whole lot, but it's
not a whole lot now. But with those future generations that will need to get paid out,
you still got to leave that working adult with something at the end of the day to live off of.
Well, you're not wrong, but think about all the other taxes that people have to pay, right? Sure. If you double your Social Security payment, it's gonna have an impact.
But you're gonna have to do more than double the Social Security payment in order to cover all the people who are retiring.
Well, whatever. It's not going to approach 100, but and it's not going to go up that much right away.
Okay, so it also depends on where we're talking about. If we're talking about the United States, it's not going to be as bad as somewhere like Italy, where
let's talk about the United States, because that's where we live, right?
I understand.
So it's 7.5%. If it goes up to 10%, right? Because oh my goodness, the payouts are more than we're taking in. What are we going to do? Well, you increase the Social Security tax, and then it comes out of your paycheck. You don't see it. Right, just like the income tax, you don't see it.
Sure,
it just doesn't show up in your paycheck. So they'll fund it. They'll fund it by raising the tax along the way.
I mean, ultimately, there's still a limit to this, because you end up with people. You basically, if there's no incentive to work, people aren't going to work. I mean, this is how communism is. It's this is why communism doesn't work economically. It fails.
Right. It will eventually fail, but fail in your lifetime is likely not going to happen. Bonnie will likely get a payout.
It may not in the United States. It kind of depends on whether or not we allow immigrants in order to increase our population, in order to
that could be a possibility.
The United States is not. The problem with the United States is we're not having enough children, and this is everywhere in the world pretty much.
Because it's too expensive.
Everywhere in the Western world, right? Except that the United States has immigration, which is helping to reduce the issue. It's not going to be as much of an issue as it is going to be in other places like Europe.
Right. But the point being that Bonnie's generation, our generation, will get our Social Security if we've paid into it, right? And it will be on the backs of Gen Beta or Gen Alpha when they start to work, and they'll end up paying more in Social Security to fund our benefits.
Horrible.
And that's horrible.
That's
a terrible system.
You guys are assuming something that may not necessarily end up being the case. It may be they drop our benefits and they reduce what we get out of it relative to what we put into it.
I have a caller on the line.
Also a terrible system.
Yeah.
And I do feel kind of bad because he's been waiting a long time.
Put him on. Let's see what he has to think. Or maybe he's got a different topic.
Jet, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind, Jet?
Keep your stinking hands off my socialist slave money.
You will pay it.
And he was 28. The youngins.
Yeah, I haven't called in for a while about a lot of this stuff, but I wanted to say, I'll bring it back toward just the concepts of freedom. I've lost relationships over simply wanting to be free, to be a voluntarist. And
good
riddance.
You
probably know that.
Yeah,
I'm a dedicated follower of Christ, so I like to bring the biblical doctrine of freedom to other Christians who might be listening too. Bring up subjects like, what laws are. People with titles, the strangers who make rules over others, this kind of thing. There's no doubt that the struggle for freedom has existed as long as any human has. It's been working to rule over his fellow man. But the the obedience to unagreed rulership is just amazing to me. I refer to it, of course, as slavery, and this other fellow referred to it as softer terms, the social contract. But just the concept that somehow you must give in to other people making rules for you. It just, I don't know where my mind, got off track, but
it's the autism.
I've always felt like, what is this nonsense about these people who establish, arbitrary borders and just kind of decide, what's best for you. I mean, there's so many cases of these things we call legislators, where the people have voted for a certain thing, but the legislator, the person who somehow magically gets the job of making rules, just goes and does whatever they want.
I had a conversation with a coworker earlier this week, and the question that I asked him, because he thought I was more conservative like him, and I went, well, no, but let's hear it out, right? As what government program is so important, right, that we fund in your life? Like what program is so important that you have to steal from me in order to fund it? And I don't care what it is, right? But whatever your answer is, it makes you my enemy, because now you're justifying stealing from me, and I don't want to be stolen from. So if you're advocating stealing from me, we're adversaries. I'm going to defend myself against your aggression.
Can I also point out that I don't want you stealing from me, but I don't want to steal from you either?
Yeah.
That's a two-way street there.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm not advocating anything. If you ask me what government program is so important, my answer would be none.
Yep.
Chainsaw them all.
Yeah, and I think that people sometimes don't also realize is that libertarians, we don't want the programs to go away. We just don't want them to be mandatory.
Coercively funded.
Right, coercively funded, exactly.
Or done badly. A lot of these things are just done badly and could be done better.
Libertarians are against violence and theft, and it doesn't matter who's doing it.
Well, once again, biblically speaking, social programs like that were always intended to be accomplished through the church,
which is fine.
Other, services and all that, charity, that kind of thing.
Right. But the government co-opted that by making it mandatory and leaving people with less disposable income to give to their church for those social programs.
Well, this thing we call government, to me, is magic. It's like sorcery. It's like, the logic. If you don't have the right power and authority to do whatever, you can't somehow give that to someone else or some group.
Yes.
And I wish more people would just kind of stop and think for a while. But I do understand why many people give up and give in to the tyranny, because, like I said, it has been going on since the beginning of time. And
because it's safer and there's a biological imperative to not die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to point out that these things we call laws are just the opinion of a very small group of people who, and it's 50% plus one of them at that. And somehow they can move this concept that
it's not somehow, it's the threat of violence. That's it.
What I'm saying is they can move it into the minds of people, however subtly.
Yes.
By saying, now you have to do this.
Yes, because there is a biological imperative to not die, and if you question them, you're risking death.
Well, that's what a lot of people think, just the same thing with taxation too.
Yes.
Whatever it is, it's underneath it all. It is that fear that somehow their life is going to be ruined, their family is going to be destroyed.
But they project that fear onto me. And they say, well, because I have to pay, because I fear for my life, you also have to pay. Otherwise, it would be unfair to me.
And it wouldn't work because it's all about stealing from other people.
Right. And my answer to them is defend it. Right? If you don't want it to happen to you, then defend it. Join me in defending against it, instead of me joining you and acquiescing to it. And
So
we
we
might
wonder-
die.
So we wonder what is the flip point that where you can flip it around and all of a sudden understand that these people don't have any rights, that laws really are opinions, that people with titles somehow don't carry the magic, and things like arbitrary borders and all this fighting that goes on in between people and places. What is that? What's the trick? What's the trap point, or what do you want to call it, where all of a sudden people can start waking up? I was watching.
You have to appeal to emotion on a subject that's dear to their heart.
What's an example of that?
Pick something that's important to you.
Well, I meant, what example have you been able to accomplish through finding somebody else something, their example?
Oh, well,
Like this fellow with
again, if like we'll just take the previous customer, the previous callers, the previous callers example for Social Security, right? He very much likes the Social Security system. So if we want to change his mind on Social Security, it's going to be a visceral, emotional reaction to it, where we offer up a better alternative to his program that he can then get behind emotionally. He's not going to listen to the logic. He's not going to listen to the reason. It's going to have to be something that hits him at home, right? Like he's on Social Security and they cut him off for whatever reason because Doge took a chainsaw to the program, right? And all of a sudden he's got nothing. You're like, okay, well, here's the alternative that will make you feel better.
Well, in my perspective, again, trying to hit at the world of Christianity, I go back to the biblical source to try to help people understand that there is ultimate freedom in this doctrine. And here's a couple examples. One point it says, since you died with Christ to the elemental spiritual forces of this world, why, as though you still belong to the world, do you submit to its rules? And another chastising thing, it talks about God being the blessed and only ruler, but here's the one that I use kind of as a...
Yeah, I'm tired of hearing that too. There's a podcast that I listen to, and he says anarchy is the lack of human rulers because the only ruler you have is God. I go, well, that's not in the definition, man. That's not there either.
No.
It's no rulers.
But here's the one that I use a lot. It says, it is for freedom that Christ has set you free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. I mean, it can't get much clearer than that by saying, you don't have to participate in this slavery.
Right. But again,
don't voluntarily get into slavery.
Even reading those scriptures, right, you're appealing to the reason and logic of whoever you're reading it to. Like it says it right here. It makes perfect sense. I mean, it's a logical conclusion, but there's no emotional attachment to it. People aren't going to move until there's an emotional attachment.
And tons of Christians use the whole thing where somewhere in the Bible it says something about, following the laws of the land. Tons of Christians are statists and they use that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also got rules on how to beat your slave. So you lost me at that as well.
Yeah. That's what's so funny about that. So many people, and I'm not talking about you, but other people think that this is what the Bible says or whatever. And if you just read even around where it's located, you'll find out that it has nothing to do with what they're talking about. So yeah, at no place does it say how could it contradict itself by saying you are to follow the one and only ruler, but then also say that you need to follow some human...
Well, you shouldn't start off with how could it contradict itself. You should say, why is there contradiction?
Yeah, well, they'll also resolve the contradiction by saying the one ruler anointed the human ruler, and so therefore you must.
You'll never find that. And all the examples that are given as far as human rulerships were presented in the Bible to show how screwed up men can make things. That really is the whole book of.
I thought Elijah
First
was
and
such a
Second
good
Kings.
ruler that he did nothing bad ever, so God took him away instead of having him die.
Well, he wasn't a ruler. He was like a prophet, like.
Or is it
guiding
Enoch?
People, leading people.
I think I mixed up the name
Enoch, yes, Enoch was taken up also.
and he was the ruler that was
along
supposed to
with
be so
Elijah.
great that they were like, oh, when he dies, which of his sons is gonna be good enough to be the next ruler? And God said he never did anything bad, so took him away.
Yeah, these people that they call rulers, like judges and all that stuff, they were leaders. They didn't punish people for not following them, that kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, see, there's a lot of misconception about this.
And explaining the misconception is still an appeal to reason and logic, and you're not going to move anybody.
Well, then should we give up? No.
No.
We should just.
Did I say
keep
give up?
presenting it,
Again, I'm the violent one. I say defend yourself against their aggression. Whenever
I agree with
reasonably
that.
prudent to do so.
And a lot of people will say that biblically there's no right of self-defense, but I disagree with that. There's too many other examples.
Well, then I reject the Bible, because I will defend myself against all aggression when reasonably imprudent to do so.
Well, you don't have to reject the whole thing or anything like that at all.
Yeah, I
because,
can be a Christian and cherry pick it wherever I
because it's
want.
not-
Isn't that what all Christians do?
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, you. Well, I'm not one of them.
Okay.
I'm not cherry picking.
So you
I'm
beat your
looking at
wives?
The whole thing.
Does the
Yeah, I
Bible
go-
say to
yeah, I
beat
do.
your wife?
I don't know. It doesn't say you beat your children if you did.
Sounds
depending
like
on what
Islam
version
to
you.
me.
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah, it depends on what version
That's
you
not
read.
the Bible.
It is the Bible.
It was translated into
Really?
that by it was translated into the English language that way. But it wasn't. I think in the originating source it wasn't that, but.
There's
of
like
course,
100 different versions of the
right,
Bible.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. These people, it's written by man, it's manipulated, and I mean.
Well, you won't find any untruth there. I mean, I've done a lot of this. I've worked on it for 40 years.
You won't find untruths in the Bible?
I don't even know what that means.
Yep, anything you can.
There's like
come up
3
with.
versions of the Ten
Give enough
Commandments.
Time, I can help you. Well,
I was wrong. It is in the
just
Bible.
because
We know.
It's a paraphrase of Proverbs 13:24 that says, "He who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him diligently." And I would have to agree with the second part.
Well, now we're talking about like what discipline diligently means. Doesn't say to beat them.
and that's
why I said the
gonna
second
be
part.
One of those other controversies till the end of time too. How much physical direction should you apply to a child? When we had kids, we said the only time that we will apply what we call reminders was when they purposefully and willfully chose disobedience. In other words, going fully against what we were trying to help them understand.
If a child takes a swing at you, you should block and counter.
If a child takes well, no, I would say learn how to block that kind of thing and then talk them down.
He
There's
said
always
block
that
and
talking
counter,
part.
but sometimes okay,
It's reasonable and prudent.
I don't know if you should counter. I don't know.
You don't have to counter hard.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's the
say
thing.
like blast them through the wall.
Yeah, that's a good point because my little brother, he is 11, and his little brother is 8, but mentally retarded. So that one will hit him. So
Future libertarian.
we tell him, hit him back. And now the retarded one does not hit the ones that hit him back. But those are 2 children instead of an adult and a children or a child.
It's the same effect.
Here's a funny story. I had 3 kids, we'll still do, and the youngest one, we would call it reminders. We would have a little paddle. Let's say we would talk to them, explain to them what the problem was and what they should do and why they shouldn't do, this kind of thing. But then add a couple little reminders with a few taps on their butt. Not anything harmful. But there was one time when I said, well, when we get home, I'm going to have to give you some reminders. And so when we got home, she ran and got the paddle, and I have it on film, on video, where she's kind of paddling herself. She says, "See, Daddy, you don't have to. I can do this myself."
That's tragic.
And so it was. So
That's not even funny.
But it was. Yes, it is funny because it was so.
That's the Opus Dei Christians
that I couldn't do it.
That like whip themselves for Jesus.
Well, no.
Never heard of that.
You never heard of Opus Dei? Oh, look up Opus Dei. That's a treat.
I mean, the child was acknowledging, that, okay, I understand what you said. And, but also
beat herself in fear of reprisal from a stronger hand.
She didn't beat herself. We don't beat. It's tap.
Okay.
It's just something, some little physical.
I'll hurt myself. Please don't hurt me.
Yeah, because I'm not doing it as hard.
But it was never never hurtful. You will never find any remark or red spot or anything. Okay. Like that. It's just
psychological harm is harm.
I mean, if I steal a little money from somebody else and they don't notice it, I guess it's okay.
Well, see, now you're supporting, my position of the whole thing of why do we have these laws and who are these people who can judge you, put you into jail, beat you up on the side of the road, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, where did they get the authority to do it? It's almost like there's almost some kind of like natural order where you can naturally see why a parent would be able to be in the authority of their child, but there is no reason that an adult should be in the authority position of another adult ever.
They learned it from childhood to obey authority. Or get beaten or reminded with the paddle.
There's no logical reason why an adult should be
Yes, which is why it's an emotional response.
So 603-283-6160. Thanks for the call, Jet. More Free Talk Live coming up.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Protection. Eleutheromania. The insatiable desire for freedom. Filibuster. Police state. It's the new 3-song heavy metal EP from Captain Kickass. Available now on your favorite music app or get it directly from CaptainKickass.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with the Week in Review. A phone call between the US President Donald Trump and Russia's President Vladimir Putin could happen at any time, following a meeting between the Russian leader and a US envoy in Moscow on Thursday to discuss a possible ceasefire in Ukraine. Putin has listed demands from the Russian side favouring a single negotiated peace deal without first going through a 30-day truce. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Envoy Steve Witkoff is on his way back to the United States following that meeting with Russia's leader Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin says that Witkoff has information and an additional signal to give to the US President Donald Trump. And once that information is transmitted here in Washington, Putin says that he would be open to a phone call or a possible meeting with President Trump, something that President Trump has also indicated he is happy to try and do. But it's unclear how quickly this negotiated peace might happen. Russia is saying it is worried about this possible 30-day ceasefire proposal, saying it would give Ukraine time to rearm, instead suggesting that a one-and-done proposal would be much better. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has described Putin's response about a possible truce as just another Russian manipulation. Former Special Counsel for International Affairs at the US Department of Defense, Jeffrey Price, says Russia will drive a hard bargain.
I hope we are not going to be pressed on the timing. I think that Putin suspects that Trump wants a deal soon, and that might give him leverage. And my hope is that we're not in a position where we're not willing to walk away from a deal. What the Ukrainians are willing to agree to, I think, is quite reasonable. And again, it just depends on whether the Russians are going to be sincere. So Putin is clearly going to want to hold on to some of the Ukrainian territory.
Amid the tit-for-tat on US tariffs with its international competitors and partners, the French wine and spirits industry has reacted with anger at the prospect of a 200% tariff on its exports to the US that's been threatened by US President Donald Trump. France says it doesn't want a trade war, but will react firmly to safeguard the interests of its companies in the face of arbitrary measures that violate international law. Stuart Smith has more from Paris.
After the US imposed tariffs on European steel, the EU promised retaliatory tariffs on American whiskey. That's when France's alcoholic drinks industry suspected they could be Trump's next trade victims, and on Thursday they were proven right as the president posted on social media that wines, champagnes and alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU-represented countries will face a 200% tariff if the EU doesn't remove its retaliatory tariff. The US is the biggest export market for French wine and champagne, and the European Committee of Wine Companies says such a tariff, if imposed, would de facto close the US market for EU winemakers.
Hollywood's biggest stars are rallying for a good cause this week with the Save Our Children campaign. Celebs like Jessica Simpson, Brad Pitt, and Gwyneth Paltrow headlined a charity event to help their suffering kids who desperately need a chance to live a normal life. Angelina Jolie talked to Starfix about the charity, saying, quote, "You don't have to be a mother to want to help my children, many of whom are not getting a proper education. If you look at the numbers, 1 in 5 of my children will struggle with drug problems." Joining us now is a representative from the charity, Julie Harrison. Julie, such a great cause.
Absolutely. We're talking about children who don't have any positive role models. They're born into a life they didn't ask for. And if the state's not going to step up and help these kids, it's time someone did something.
Here's a quote from Victoria Beckham, and I found this powerful. "It breaks my heart to think about these kids living somewhere in my house with no hope for a happy future. Who knows if they even have food to eat?" Julie, according to your group's website, a staggering number of STARS children are being exploited growing up without parents.
Right.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. Are you tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites? Our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. social.freetalklive.com. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Mr. Penguin.
And Rich.
And we don't have any callers on the line. We had multiple callers in the last segment on the waiting. Sorry, waiting to get on, but then some hung up. So if you couldn't get in last segment, you definitely can this segment. So you should call back at 603-283-6160. Bring up whatever is on your mind. But Rich, you brought in a story that I've found probably or pretty interesting because I keep hearing all these crazy stories. I watched a long video about the horror that Spring Break 2025 has been.
Spring Break. Woo!
For some reason,
Girls Gone Wild. Oh, I looked at Chris. I don't know why I did that.
Yeah. Neither of us here are going to go woo with you about that.
Son of a gun.
So Spring Break 2025 has apparently been a big problem this year because I don't know why. It was like a bigger one than normal or something. And the resorts people have been going to have been like running out of water and internet and food.
Wait, how do you run out of internet?
Well, sorry, I said internet, but
You've never hit your cap?
Energy.
You've never hit your cap, bro? Do you even scroll?
I guess I meant like energy, like their phones
Data
will be
caps.
dead.
Seriously?
Well, if you're like in another country, like if you went to Mexico for a spring break, you can definitely have a
You're
data
not familiar
cap.
with data caps? Or has it been so long that you've had unlimited that you don't even care?
I mean, yeah, I don't think I've ever had a data cap, to be honest.
Okay. That sounds impossible. There was a big deal years ago.
Hold on. Are we talking about phones or are we talking about internet connections?
Both.
Well, I'm talking about more
Comcast
phones
has like
and-
data caps, man.
Phones, yes, but not internet connections.
Okay.
And
There are jurisdictions where like you get a terabyte of your your landline internet and that's it. After that, they charge more or cut you off.
I wouldn't think that would be the case with like some sort of business connection though, that you would have at like a resort or something like that.
All right. That might be more fair. If you're running a business connection, it's probably higher, or that they just keep it on and whatever.
I wouldn't think there would be one, but
I mean, they're trying to make money. They're
Sure.
not offering if you're above.
But do you know what the difference between the consumer price and the business price is?
Significant for the business.
Multiplied by like 3.
Yeah.
And then half the bandwidth.
That doesn't make any sense. All right, spring break. Spring break brawl erupts on controversial beach as students rush to, any guesses, place crypto bets.
Oh yeah, that was the second part that interested me about this story.
Can you imagine fighting over that? I gotta get this crap coin.
Well, if you all are like on crappy internet too, because the resort you're at.
Utila?
Okay.
No, it's not Utila. It's like Cancun and stuff.
Was it Ethereum starts to pump during PorkFest and all the audits are going wild?
I don't pay attention to Ethereum.
Okay, well pick another coin then. What are people trading at PorkFest?
Any coin I care about, I already have. So if it was getting pumped, I'd be like, oh, the number's going up. But
okay, but you wouldn't want to try to get more? And then
it's going up.
At the limited internet connection at Rogers, everyone trying to like put in their bets.
I think any time to get more crypto is a good time.
Okay, so you fight over this then.
Oh,
like
you know what's going to be
breakers.
big at PorkFest this year? Half goldbacks, because the goldback, the one goldback is going to be worth twice what it was at last PorkFest. Last PorkFest, we were using it for a 3, and this year it's worth a 6. One goldback.
You're using it for a 3, wasn't it? Like 4 the last one?
Maybe it's almost half, or maybe it's almost twice. So last year, let's say it was a 4, because I could be wrong. This year is going to be a 6, so at least went up $2.
50% increase.
But a half goldback exists now, and I got a lot today, and I'm saving them for PorkFest.
Nice.
Yes, so I can actually spend it. Because that was my favorite thing to spend at PorkFest.
So let me ask you something real quick. What is a goldback? Because I'm sure that there's people out there listening that don't know what a goldback is.
It's
real money.
Yes, it's gold that's been thinly sprayed in a specific design that's very intricate.
And laminated.
Yep, onto some laminate, some polymer. And it's intricate so that way it can be counterfeit proof. And it's a tiny amount of gold so that you can actually spend it. Because you couldn't spend a speck of gold. No one could be convinced that it is gold. I mean, sure that it is gold. And you would just lose it. You'd put it in your pocket and be like, oh, where'd it go? It's like blending in with the lint, So they made a way to use make a speck of gold spendable.
So it's not backed by gold, it's actual gold.
Yes.
Exactly.
In a form that you can actually spend. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
the to be clear, like the gold back denominated 1 is like 1/1000th of an ounce of gold.
And half is a half of that now. So 1/2000th?
Right.
Yeah.
It's math.
I had to think
not
about
in this
it.
religion.
I'm telling you, I'm not autistic because I wasn't sure.
Right. But gold, like physical gold, the price of gold just like crested $3,000 per ounce.
Yeah,
so
I saw that.
And there's a premium built into the gold backs, for the overhead and whatnot. So that's why it's
and for the utility, like you're getting something that is greater than just the 1/1000th of an ounce, in my opinion.
I want to make it clear. So my company takes gold backs, but we don't take flakes of gold.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, exactly.
Why not? What about acre gold?
Yeah, I mean,
What's
if it was a
acre
coin
gold?
or something like that, maybe, but like not flakes of gold.
No, it's like a fleck, but it's in a card form. You can get like smaller than an ounce.
I bet those are worth a tiny bit more than the gold is worth.
I mean, for a while
too.
there was Shire silver, right? And they put like silver rods in on a business card, and people were taking that because that's just the amount of silver, man.
But even then, that's another thing that's not just the fleck by itself. It's like it's been created in a way that is it's been changed.
It's got utility to it as opposed to flakes of gold.
Turned into an
not
instrument.
Super,
yeah. But like a gold coin also has utility. It's just expensive.
Yeah, but that's so much more than 1/1000th of an
Understood.
ounce.
Yeah, this is true, but that still has utility, right? A gold coin.
Yes.
And I certainly would accept a gold coin. I wouldn't accept a flake of gold.
Okay.
Like, how do you measure that, right? Like,
with a scale?
I guess, but like, I mean, we're not living in a gold rush town that we have got scales everywhere.
Okay.
I mean,
and plus, if somebody just gives you a fleck, like you don't know that's gold. You'd have to like have some kind of
the gold
instrument.
back. A gold back is just so easy to understand, like what it is and how much it's worth. By comparison to pretty much anything else.
You'd probably need like hundreds of customers spending gold flecks the size of this fleck of chocolate. It's a tiny one for the listeners.
Again, but the problem with
For
the
it to
gold back,
be worth
even at a half though, you're looking at like $3.
A half what?
Half a gold back.
Yep.
I mean, but with inflation, there's nothing less than $3 anyway at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair. But I mean, like if that means the smallest amount of something costs $3.
Yep.
So if I'm using gold backs, I'm like, man, I just want a banana.
It's probably going to cost you $3.
It's going to either cost me $3 or I got to have 3 bananas.
Well, if you only have gold backs, which is a problem, I think people should diversify.
Okay.
I don't think anybody should be using just goldbacks, just Bitcoin.
Oh, but isn't that the goal?
But of course, at that point, it's easier just to spend crypto.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You should be diversifying,
Yeah.
like have crypto and goldbacks. I don't think it's easier just to spend crypto. Sometimes that takes a long
Well,
time.
I mean, if you're trying to break it up in terms of like, okay, let's say you have $3.25 that you owe somebody, right?
Mhm.
It's way easier to pay in crypto than to give them a $3 or a half a gold back. And
that's the thing that I recognized at Porkfest, that people would actually just
0.25
drop
of
the 25 cents in order to take a gold back from you because that's how much they valued it, was one thing.
Okay.
And for another thing, you could always just pull out a quarter from your pocket. It's not like I'm saying I spend zero blood money at Porkfest. I just don't want to shop at people who only take blood money.
I think I want to suggest that the long-term goal of both technologies is to get people off the dollar.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And so somewhere along the line, there's got to be the way to make change.
One day there can be a 1/4 of an ounce, or not 1/4.
Yeah, but 1/4 of a gold back.
Yeah.
But even when that happens, right, the reason that will come into fruition is because of the inflationary rise of the dollar, and that one will also be around $3 by the time they introduce it.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
All right. Anything else on the go backs?
Keep going.
All right. Well, I'm going to start. Crypto. Rush for crypto. Would you look at that? It's mid-March and spring break is well underway for sun-seeking U.S. college students. This is from the Daily Star, by the way, a reputable news source. Great weather, booze, and 100 wannabe party goers all in the same place. Wannabe? Yeah, that's where the party's at. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, well, I don't get that little,
What an insult.
Insult they randomly put in there.
If that's where the party's at and I go, I'm a party goer.
Maybe the cops came in and stopped the party before they could merge and start the party.
All right.
Well, there were some people were saying ugh, it's all these there are these college kids trying to party, and then there are these weirdos who are 30 and they're going there to interview hot chicks who are drunk.
Okay. The Girls Gone Wild people.
Maybe those are. Oh yeah,
that was great late night TV.
Version.
Yeah,
that's a really good point. That's the old version of what this is. You know these videos you see on the internet now that are all these.
But to get that on VHS.
Yeah,
right.
There are these
480i.
There are these guys that'll be on on the street and they'll be like, "Hey, hello, ma'am, you're beautiful, but do you think you're a 10?" And hand her the mic, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm a 10. Anyone would agree." Because she's drunk.
Right.
Those are the new version of Girls Gone Wild.
You got to hulk to and spit on that thing.
You know what's weird is that some of them will go up to them and be like, do you want $1 or do you want to give me a kiss? Or do you want to give me $1 or do you want to kiss me? And they're like, I don't want to give you $1. All right, they have to kiss me. It's like, that's not journalism.
I don't think it's supposed to be. It's shock TV.
When was Girls Gone Wild ever supposed to be journalism?
I don't know. It wasn't.
Look, I'll give you its free speech, but I don't know about the journalism part.
Girls Gone Wild, Jerry Springer. Forget about it.
Journalism.
Yeah, okay. He wasn't a journalist.
He was definitely an entertainer.
Yes.
Free speech, yes. Journalism, no.
But try to watch it now at 480i. Forget it.
I forgot my main point. My main point was those people could be considered the wannabe party goers because
okay, that's fair.
You're just trying to get there and do weird things with hot drunk chicks.
The creepy college dude at the high school party.
Yeah,
okay.
It's exactly that, except that these are the college people being creeped on. Well, I always thought when I was a kid that spring break was all about high schoolers going and doing things, but as I got older, I realized even if some of them did, it was either there's me and my best friend and our parents are going somewhere, and high schoolers are not as independent as I thought when I was a kid, and maybe
they might have been more independent when you were a kid.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask.
You got to back up a moment, and there were prior generations. It probably was high schoolers, but newer generations, they got kids locked down so much nowadays. They can't do anything. They can't drive. They can't get licenses. They can't.
Fake IDs were easier to come by.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Things change. People do not young people today do not understand how, and even young adults now do not understand how draconian
it's the new normal.
Yeah, the world has become.
That sucks.
I think I might be either the oldest or one of the oldest people in the room right now. I don't know how old you are, Penguin. But when I was a kid, I didn't have a cell phone.
You're older.
Okay.
think about it.
When I was a kid, I didn't have a cell phone.
I didn't have a cell phone when I was a kid either. Cell phones didn't come around until
When
I
I
was
was a kid, I didn't have a cell phone.
But when I left the house, I would just leave the house and I would just leave a note on the board or whatever.
Yep. Oh, I remember doing that. Yep.
And I was just gone.
Yep.
I just showed up when I was hungry, if I didn't have any money to buy food, and that was it.
I mean, we didn't even.
I was free range most of the time.
We didn't even leave notes most of the time.
Also fine. My mom had a whiteboard. Yeah. It's like, I don't care where you are. Just tell me where you are.
I get off after school and just not come home.
I couldn't do that most of the time because my dad was more strict. But as soon as I moved into my mom's house, I was gone.
My parents worked, so it didn't even they wouldn't even know what time I got back unless if they got home and then I wasn't back, then they'd start wondering. But
I guess this is interesting.
But now you can track your kid with the 360 app of the phone. Like, I know he's at Jim's house.
That's so creepy. That is so creepy if you ask me. Tracking your kid everywhere with the phone. That's just like, what is wrong? I do not understand that.
Some people do that with their
mentality.
boyfriend and girlfriend too.
Yeah, that's so creepy to me.
I kind of understand it because me and Ian, for example, would totally do that. Have that on our phones.
What are you doing in cell block C today, Ian?
But that's what I'm saying. If he wasn't in prison, no, I'm saying if he wasn't in prison, there isn't cell blocks there. It's just this open room with cubby holes. But anyways, like office cubbies.
What are you doing in Joa's cell?
Joa's not there.
You're getting jealous. You're getting jealous, buddy.
Way to throw Joe under the bus.
I assume he's in prison now. So we would do that, but just for say I went to an activism thing without him, and then he can't get in contact with me, and a safety thing. But there are people that use it for making sure each other aren't cheating and weird things like that. So.
Yeah,
that makes it creepy.
But anybody who has to be connected to their cell phone, period, of that nature is just.
The other thing is
that's a line that I don't even want to go near. I don't even have a SIM card in my phone.
One thing I was gonna say is but for privacy, would me and Ian do that? Probably not, because I didn't think about the fact there's probably not any remotely private service that would do that. Because the last time I did that with a boyfriend was 2018.
And you guys could be using just Bofang radios,
No, the thing is somebody kidnapped me and you want to see where your Bofang radio last pinged. Well, that doesn't work.
Oh, because they could take but they're going to take your phone. They're not going to take your Bofang radio.
That's why you got to put an AirTag in a shoe, man.
That's everywhere you go.
I think you guys are just too obsessed with people being kidnapped.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not
I
Ian.
didn't bring it up.
This is the thing. If Ian was here, he'd probably be like, "No, we wouldn't." I don't know, but I'm trying not to be as obsessed with being kidnapped anymore.
Were you previously obsessed with being kidnapped?
This is all you. Because I was going to say, this doesn't sound like Ian.
Yeah, I used to be really obsessed with being kidnapped or murdered or something because I would watch the true crime stuff and I had
That'll do it.
pepper spray.
Oh, yeah.
And I was doing Uber Eats. But the thing was before I started watching that, I was I don't know why people are scared of cities, because I do Uber Eats in San Antonio in the middle of the night and I'm fine. But then I started watching it and I got scared, so I made myself
irrational.
stop.
It's irrational. It creates irrationality in people.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. These types of true crime programs drive me nuts because it's not reality. It's
reality for those people.
Yeah, that's what sucks.
That happened to them.
That's what sucks.
Yeah, but
statistically, it's not going to happen to you, but it happened to somebody.
Well, that's the point.
Someone's the 1 in 100.
Statistically, it's not going to happen. Basically, is what it comes down to.
We have Sarah on the line, and I don't want to make her wait because
someone should kidnap
was
her.
waiting last time. Sarah,
let's not go.
I don't agree with that.
Oh, okay.
I don't agree with that. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Well, it's going to be on a live show, but
yeah.
Remember I said that we had 6 speeding cameras out in the county? So, yeah they're going to be adding more. That's why I had to call
You must be thrilled.
Well, I'm really thrilled because, I talk to people every day to call the county commissioners. I was at church today, and I was talking to people. I talked to 10 people. Call the mayor. Call the county commissioners. They're going to put in more cameras, and
This is what happens when you don't take her off the streets.
Well, the thing is that
she advocates for security cameras and talks to people about it.
Violence is not justified here, guys. Come on.
No one would be able to kidnap her because the cameras would definitely pick it up.
Yeah, kidnapping. Yeah, definitely so. So, but That is
They've got
speed
360
camera.
on Albuquerque now.
So to prevent you from getting kidnapped, Bonnie, you should advocate for that in Keene.
Yeah. No.
Camera on every corner to keep an eye
I'm
on
really
Bonnie.
not worried about kidnapping in Keene. I'm more worried about, like, I can't even go to a park without a homeless person, like, creepily following me, like a drug addict. So I always carry around pepper spray for that. Second, maybe that's actually secondary. First, foremost, is these people with bad pit bulls
Okay.
in their yards, like, just on a chain. Scares the crap out of me.
Where are you?
Locked
where
up,
are you
locked up on their
This-
own property, and
this
Bonnie's got a
neighborhood.
problem.
This
with it.
neighborhood, really?
Yes, and the thing is, yeah, they're like on a chain, but there has been multiple dogs. 3 dogs have bit coconut in this neighborhood, so they get out.
I've walked this neighborhood plenty of times, and I honestly can't remember a single time where I've run into a pit bull. But I
They're-
won't.
one of
I
them
don't
is
doubt it.
3
You've
streets
got that
down.
alpha
I
aura.
don't doubt
They
it.
bow down to you.
One of them is 3 houses down. I meant to say.
I mean, is this like the most passive like pit bull or something?
No,
No, 'cause
this
it
is
bit
the
coconut.
worst. No, a pit bull, to be fair, hasn't bit coconut.
Oh, okay.
A collie, a Rottweiler, and a large poodle bit coconut.
He couldn't take on the poodle?
They're large poodles. They're bad.
Oh, okay.
And it was a female. That one.
You know,
And
we
it
have
molested
the
him.
same- A whole bunch of dog problems here in New Mexico.
What'd
Yeah,
you say, Sarah? Sorry about that.
The dog problems getting mauled and bit and chewed and everything. It happens all over New Mexico.
Yeah.
So is that a rural part of New Hampshire?
No, it's
Is
just
that
that
what
New
you're
Hampshire
talking
is
about?
very dog friendly, which I like a lot of the time, but I dislike because I remember that large dogs are also included in dogs.
Yes, they
Like
are.
the pit bull up the street that I don't like, it bit the old lady's face next door, but she was telling me about it, and I was like, "That's so bad. What do you like? Your face is bruised." And she was like, "It wasn't the dog's fault." I was like, "You're insane."
I mean, if
Liberals
she
are
crossed the
insane.
property line.
No, it's not
Okay.
that. It's like they were on their shared porch.
Okay.
And she was petting the other dog because there's like a smaller dog they own and a pit bull. And she said, it's just that me petting that dog excited the pit bull, so it
Okay.
bit my face. So it's not
All
the
right.
dog's fault. That's the definition of the dog's fault. It got too excited, couldn't control itself. But it's also the owner's fault because they are horrible, and I
Yeah.
screamed at them.
I guess, in her defense, like that's part of nature, and if it wasn't aggressively going after, like I've played with dogs and gotten nipped because they bite when they play.
Yeah.
And they don't bite hard.
That's the thing.
They're
Her
not
face was
trying
like
to-
bruised. Coconut has never
Yeah.
bruised me, and he bites when he plays.
Well, yeah, but it's a bigger dog, bites a little harder. But
Yeah.
the fact that it's a big dog and bit her and didn't rip her face off,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of evident that it was playful and the dog just got a little too aggressive.
Bad dog.
but
Bad owner.
not aggression.
That's the thing. A good owner with a good pit bull, like the people across the street,
Okay,
would never bite somebody even getting playful.
maybe.
These people, they don't have a yard.
Lawsuits? There's lawyers that will take these lawsuits for dog bites.
I bet there are. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I
Yeah,
voluntarily
they have
play with the dog, like I know that there's a possibility that I'm gonna get nipped.
Yeah.
Because that's just how it is,
Um,
and I accept that going in.
And I'm sure that was her attitude, so that's why she was kind of like sad about it in a way. She's like, yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, they're bad dog owners, but it wasn't the dog's fault.
That's how dogs play.
So 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. Anything that's on your mind, you can call that number and bring up whatever's on your mind when we come back, because there's more coming up. Don't go anywhere. It's Free Talk Live.
When is the best time to buy wrapping paper? December 26. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. Have you seen how much frozen turkeys are marked down the day after Thanksgiving? Beef and turkey are both rich in protein, vitamins, and minerals, but beef has twice the fats. So why gobble just one day each year? Those day after Thanksgiving doorbuster specials can be budget busters, but everything is on sale in January. And try Christmas shopping throughout the year when you spot something someone on your gift list would appreciate. And though I love the smell of a real Christmas tree, I bought a handsome $1,000 artificial tree for $400 in January. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at And you can quote.me.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with the Week in Review. A phone call between the US President Donald Trump and Russia's President Vladimir Putin could happen at any time, following a meeting between the Russian leader and a US envoy in Moscow on Thursday to discuss a possible ceasefire in Ukraine. Putin has listed demands from the Russian side favouring a single negotiated peace deal without first going through a 30-day truce. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Envoy Steve Witkoff is on his way back to the United States following that meeting with Russia's leader Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin says that Witkoff has information and an additional signal to give to the US President Donald Trump. And once that information is transmitted here in Washington, Putin says that he would be open to a phone call or a possible meeting with President Trump, something that President Trump has also indicated he is happy to try and do. But it's unclear how quickly this negotiated peace might happen. Russia is saying it is worried about this possible 30-day ceasefire proposal, saying it would give Ukraine time to rearm, instead suggesting that a one-and-done proposal would be much better. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has described Putin's response about a possible truce as just another Russian manipulation. Former Special Counsel for International Affairs at the US Department of Defense, Jeffrey Price, says Russia will drive a hard bargain.
I hope we are not going to be pressed on the timing. I think that Putin suspects that Trump wants a deal soon, and that might give him leverage. And my hope is that we're not in a position where we're not willing to walk away from a deal. What the Ukrainians are willing to agree to, I think, is quite reasonable. And again, it just depends on whether the Russians are going to be sincere. So Putin is clearly going to want to hold on to some of the Ukrainian territory.
Amid the tit-for-tat on US tariffs with its international competitors and partners, the French wine and spirits industry has reacted with anger at the prospect of a 200% tariff on its exports to the US that's been threatened by US President Donald Trump. France says it doesn't want a trade war, but will react firmly to safeguard the interests of its companies in the face of arbitrary measures that violate international law. Stuart Smith has more from Paris.
After the US imposed tariffs on European steel, the EU promised retaliatory tariffs on American whiskey. That's when France's alcoholic drinks industry suspected they could be Trump's next trade victims, and on Thursday they were proven right as the president posted on social media that wines, champagnes and alcoholic products coming out of France and other EU-represented countries will face a 200% tariff if the EU doesn't remove its retaliatory tariff. The US is the biggest export market for French wine and champagne, and the European Committee of Wine Companies says such a tariff, if imposed, would de facto close the US market for EU.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it will cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you feel so inspired. And you will get a special membership badge that is visible in the Odyssey-only chat, and we really appreciate any of your support, amplifying or being an Odyssey member. Really appreciate it. And again, that's... Oh man, I actually forgot what it was. That is video.freetalklive.com. I was thinking it was like support. No.
It's written right on the paper.
Yeah, but I put it upside down as soon as I finished reading it. So we have...
She's better at math.
I mean, we
I didn't put it upside down.
right? I mean, we're talking about the deterioration of our, education system. So
I was half
all these younger
homeschooled.
kids can't read.
I was
They're going to be on
part
Social
homeschooled.
Security later.
I know, right?
So we have a caller on the line. David in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. David, what's on your mind?
That was lots of stuff, Bonnie. You know that. Stop asking me.
Okay, lots of stuff.
That was a long time ago, Bonnie. Your ACT score is probably down to like 19 or something by now.
Why would it be down? I don't think it would be down.
Oh, take it again. Put a bet with David and take it again.
I'll take it again. That might be kind of fun.
$10,000, Bonnie.
Why would it be down? I don't think it would be down.
David might be the opposite. You might be up because kids are getting dumber, and so they're making it easier. So therefore,
Oh, I would like to take a 2015 ACT then, so that way I can control for that.
right? Yeah.
Because I don't think it would be down. Because the thing is, I got very bad math scores, and math is the only thing I would forget. I don't forget how to read.
Do you remember the show Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to stay on that.
And I homeschooled a 6th grader this year.
Okay.
For 2
Point
months.
being,
Or a month and a half.
the premise of the show
I feel
was
bad for that kid.
the premise of the premise of the show was that adults lose knowledge over time because they don't remember the stuff they learned in 5th grade.
But the thing you don't understand is, like, the ACT isn't just like, hey, what do you remember from when we went over this and that class? It's like you can figure out the answers type thing. That's why I didn't study at all, and I did better than my other students.
Here's what it comes down
Or
to.
classmates.
What gets taught in school, you don't need to know. Anybody who's telling you kids, you need to know this stuff, no, you don't. It's one big lie.
I would like to do it for an IQ test. That's the thing, because I don't know how else to get an IQ test. Like,
Take an IQ test.
Yeah, but you Google it and they all look like fake, and they're trying to like scam you.
No, go take a real one.
How do you get a real one? Like, I haven't figured that out.
Usually, like a doctor or a psychiatrist or whatever.
I always ask
There
Ian
will be
if we
real
can
ones
take.
online.
Yeah, I'd rather do it online. I don't know why. Just like I hate doctors
So you
in
can cheat?
general. No.
Yeah.
No. I already said I'm totally fine with if mine is 110. You think my IQ is lower than 110, David? You think my IQ went down? Isn't that impossible?
Go find out what the official test they use to get Mensa people in and take that one.
Oh.
Well, first of all, yeah, they'll send you one if you just go online and go to Mensa. I'm sure actually Mensa's probably got their test rate. They probably got a sample test rate online. But no, Bonnie. First of all, I was messing with you, but second of all, there is a kernel of truth in what I said, because you said your math score on your ACT was 25, and I'm
No. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. If I said that was not what I meant. My whole score was a 25. My math was much lower than reading or whatever the other side is called.
Okay, yeah, I heard something like that. Anyways, but I'm guessing that while your IQ could go up without having received any further education, just life experience.
I've heard it's hard
because of the nature of math. I think your math score would go down unless you've been practicing.
But what I'm telling you is my math score was down. And
Well, if I'm not mistaken, IQ doesn't measure how much you know. It's supposed to measure how good you are at learning or something. Yeah.
The age is also a factor, which is weird, but it is.
Yeah, but like, is 28 supposed to be dumber than 19?
If you're just as smart at 19 as you are at 28, your score at 19 will be higher than your score at 28.
Why is that?
Yeah.
Because age is a factor. They take age into account when they attribute your IQ score.
I don't get it.
Then you're not a 110.
That proves our point, Bonnie.
No.
That proves our point. Give me my 10 grand now.
Why does that prove your point? Because I'm just trying to understand why it is.
I want it in gold backs, Bonnie. I want it in gold backs. Hand them over.
Is it because 28-year-olds are supposed to be smarter, so that way like it's harder to be higher than average? Okay.
That's why they factor in age. So if a 19-year-old and a 28-year-old
got the
are
same
equally smart.
Score. Oh, okay, I see.
If they're equally smart, the 19-year-old would have a higher IQ because age is factored in.
Okay.
Well, it's all downhill after 28, Bonnie. So if you're 28,
you are so negative.
I know. I am.
The negativist.
I found a thing here anyway on pumpkinperson.com about this very subject you're talking about. Yeah, you listen to this.
That's a real website? Pumpkinperson.com?
Pumpkinperson.com.
Don't Google that on air.
Bunch of stuff. Yeah, right. So let's see. If you use this chart, you can convert SAT to IQ using the formula that I created, and there's a link for Generation Z SAT scores taken after March 2016. IQ, they give it blah, blah, blah. Okay. There's a formula. And then, let's see. So let's say you're a genius and you scored a perfect 36 on the ACT. If you convert Generation Y SAT scores, you get 1600, which converts to IQ 153 using Generation Y formula. But if you convert to Generation Z SAT scores, you get 1590, which equates to IQ 137. That's a difference of 16. So what they're saying here is this is actually generationally different.
I mean, Bonnie wanted to control for that by taking the, what did you say, the 2015 version?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was ACT, not SCT. Or, I don't know, maybe it's
ACT.
Yeah.
I think there's also a commentary. I haven't read this whole thing, so I can't tell you, but I think there's also a commentary here about not just age, but difference between the generations based on cultural things, not just age.
Yeah,
Yes.
but that's kind of annoying too, because like, where would I fall? I'm 1996. It's like I'm the last year of millennial, and it's just like so annoying. I'm legitimately nothing like anyone born in the 80s. Like that, I don't consider myself like, yeah, we're such a tribe. Like, oh my god, just like you. If somebody's just like placing me in a bucket for millennial, it means nothing. It means nothing.
But you get along so well with Ian.
He's not a millennial. He's Gen X.
No, he's not.
I think he is.
It'll be very close.
Yeah, it is close,
What's his birth year?
81.
90,
Oh.
No, 1980.
Okay.
He's Gen X. 1980. What do you say?
80. 80.
He's Gen X.
He was
Okay.
conceived
Gen
in
X.
1970. Or nine. Sorry, 1970. My bad. I meant 1979. I think I meant to say in the 70s.
The longest pregnancy ever.
Yeah.
His mom
Not human.
His mom's an elephant.
Well, that explains the genius thing.
Oh, wait, no. Elephants are less. I don't know.
No. His mama was a blue whale.
Yeah. Anyways, I meant to
Or
say
at least
1979.
At least a sperm whale.
I just always like to remind Ian that he existed in the 70s, and he like frowns about that.
I'd frown about that too.
What do you mean, man? 70s were cool.
Just calling him old because it's fun.
Oh, okay.
But I call him vintage.
So, hey, listen to this. So one more sentence of this thing here. It says, my guess is that by eliminating the hardest questions from the SAT so that Generation Z could have a safe space and so political correctness could be maintained. How do you like that?
You know, this makes so much sense because there's this like one girl on Twitter. It's like she doesn't say anything super smart or anything, and she's always claiming she has a 140 IQ. And like all her followers, they like her because she's pretty, but they are always like, "We love you, but you're not that intelligent." Like 140 is like TJ. You know, like TJ has a 140 IQ.
But here's the thing: is if she's playing the game, that does kind of make her smart.
What game?
You know, play dumb. That's how you get all the attention.
Yeah.
I don't think she's as smart as TJ. I just don't.
I mean, we mentioned Mensa earlier. That there was a porn star back in the day. You might remember her, David. Asia Carrera.
Oh yeah, I know them all, man. Which one?
Asia Carrera.
I've heard of her.
Okay.
I can't remember what her hoo-has look like.
Okay. Well, like I don't know if the wiki confirms this, but I did watch like a documentary, and she was a member of Mensa, and in the early days of the internet, programmed her own website and fulfilled her own orders.
Cool.
But just took advantage of like men are stupid and sex-craved beings, so I'm going to make some money.
Well,
doing the porn thing.
What do you have to be at to be Mensa or whatever?
I don't know. David, do you know?
140? Wow.
It's like the top 2% of the population is what gets you into Mensa.
Yeah, so what I'm saying though is like I think that really explains it. Like if Gen Z is being told their IQs are higher than they really are, then maybe that's why that girl thinks that.
And if they dumb down the IQ test to attribute for it, then
and this is all the crap that makes me like, I'm like, I want to know what my IQ is, but like I don't want to fall for one of these traps where I like take a test and I'm like, my IQ is 140. Wow, and it's like a lie because they're trying to make Gen Z feel better.
Well, but I mean that's the modern day
that.
test. So whatever, like I said, go to Mensa. Whatever test Mensa authorizes is probably the one you'll want to take.
I don't know. It's just kind of a curiosity. Like, it's not that I really want to do really well, but I just want to know.
Yeah.
You know?
Why?
I don't know. It's just interesting.
Bragging rights.
Bragging rights.
Well, then I could get other people and ask them if they've ever taken it, and if they tell me theirs is lower than them, I'm worth more as a human being. So there's that. I'm
When you're
joking.
interviewing for a job.
Are you?
What's the average IQ of the staff here?
Yeah.
I'm going to need significantly more money if I'm going to have to deal with those 110 people.
I think I am one. and I honestly think it adds up, because I just think that I'm not as stupid as the average person, but I'm not like so much smarter like Ian, whatever he is. He didn't take a test.
I think we looked it up once, and I think New Hampshire was like the highest average in the country at like 104.
I think it's Massachusetts right now.
Okay.
But the thing is, this is what I believe. I believe if you took off college kids from both states, you would not see highest IQs. If you talk to the Hill people here, they're retarded.
Okay. I mean, that's fair, whatever it is, but like the highest when we looked at, and we did this, I think, with Lori within the last few months, but the 104 was like the highest average in the country. So if you're 110 or like anything higher than that, you're above average in the country for now.
You got a 104 IQ, you're dumb.
Okay.
What's yours, David?
If you take the aggregate of test scores, it's like 145 plus or minus.
So Mensa level. You should join.
If that can, no.
Get all the rights and privileges of being a Mensa member.
Bunch of boring nerds, man. Who wants to hang around with that?
Other boring nerds, because that's the only people you can have like a real intellectual conversation with.
Boring nerd.
It's probably a Dungeons and Dragons night.
Yeah.
Tonight we're going to play Magic the Gathering. We're kind of sick of D&D.
I don't know. Dragons,
I don't know.
I'm only interested in Dungeons. I'm only interested in Dungeons and Dragons if it's real. Are they real Dungeons and Dragons?
I've interacted with at least a few Mensa people, and I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily know that I would say they're particularly interesting.
TJ's interesting.
Well, he said that David's claiming they're boring. So would you agree with that?
I don't want to say I would agree with David on that. I just don't necessarily think that's a defining factor whether somebody's interesting or not.
TJ's really interesting.
Yes, but that doesn't necessarily mean other people that are
That's the one like high IQ person I know. I'm gonna keep
correlation,
referencing.
not causation.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe true.
If you're in Mensa, you'd understand what that means.
Free IQ test here, Bonnie. Free IQ test. Of course, it would be the Wechsler IQ test. Because the Jewish people are always doing everything, man.
What does that mean?
Gentiles, huh?
What are you talking about? What's Wechsler?
That's a dude's name. Ask Chris. It's one of his cousins, Wechsler.
Chris isn't Jewish. Are you saying he's Jewish?
I thought Chris said he was.
When did I ever say I was Jewish?
Oh, then see, my IQ isn't that high after all.
Well, answer the question.
So anyway,
are you?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
So anyway, there's free IQ tests.
We figured out if you're white during the break.
We did.
It's for listeners. I was asking Rich if he's white.
No, Richie's not white. He's got some. Yeah, he's like Portuguese or something.
See?
You're right.
I don't understand this.
Wow. So people really consider Portuguese not white? I honestly didn't know.
Yeah, they don't qualify.
It just blows my mind.
It does blow my mind.
Are
Spaniards white?
Can't be in the club, man.
Are Spaniards white?
No. There ain't no white Hispanics. That's a myth that what's his face in Florida started. That what is his face? The Trayvon Martin killer dude. White Hispanic.
George something.
Zimmerman.
George Zimmerman.
Zimmerman. There you go. Well, look at that. Another Zimmerman. What kind of name is that? See?
Jewish.
See?
Jewish German or
to do anything.
Jewish
Mexican. He's even going to be a Jew, huh?
Yeah, Jewish Mexican. All their last names end with Mon. Men.
Mon. I thought that was a Jamaican that all ended in Mon.
I was like, well, is it man? Anyways. David.
So there's free IQ tests up the yin yang on the internet. All you gotta do.
Yeah, I know, and I just look at those and I'm like, these look fake, and now I'm gonna give up because it's just like
they're not fake. They're all kinds of real ones. They're dime
it's something that I feel like if I have to put in this much effort to do it, it's getting lame, and I don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you don't have to do the entire length of. You can select an IQ test that instead of being 100 questions that take several hours. You can do a shorter version of one that's like 10 or 15 questions that'll take you 45 minutes.
Send me a link.
I did send you a link. It's called Google.
Google what?
Pumpkin person or whatever he said earlier.
Yeah, I googled IQ space test.
I'm gonna say if you need somebody to send you a link on this one, you might not want to take it.
If you just Google IQ test, what I'm telling you is like everything that pops up looks so fake.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I've given you the best guidance, which is find the official one that Mensa uses to qualify the
Yeah,
candidates.
I already Googled
Okay.
Mensa, so maybe I'll think about doing it later. Or I'll just like see if I can order an ACT from 2015 if that's possible and not like money. I don't want to pay for that.
Don't forget, you need to hire a proctor, and you got to time that.
Yeah.
Pencils down. Got to make sure you fill in the bubble correctly.
I'll get Chris to watch
Scantron.
me because he does not want me to win. Apparently, he doesn't want to see me succeed.
I just don't think. I think this is a pointless exercise that has absolutely no
is.
value.
I don't think it has
She
no
listens
value.
to true crime podcasts. She's got the time to do it.
I don't anymore. I had to stop
okay.
myself. It was scaring me, and that was back in 2020 when I had to stop myself. And every once in a while, like I just am, I end up interested in one anyway. Like the Gypsy Rose thing, I watched a whole bunch of stuff about it recently because she got out of jail, and it was getting me in a bad mental state. Like just the Gypsy Rose thing is not even that
All
bad.
I can say is you're so much smarter for not watching it anymore.
Yeah. I also watched a repeat about the Casey Anthony one when I already know everything about Casey Anthony.
Did she
recently.
started a TikTok?
Yes, because Casey
Okay.
Anthony started a TikTok, and she's trying to like get famous, or she's
already famous.
She's trying to use her platform.
I thought you're not allowed to do that.
What do you mean?
I thought when you get convicted of a felony or whatever, you're not allowed to profit off of the conviction.
She was convicted of lying to cops, but
Okay.
I don't know if that is
All
something
right.
where you're not allowed.
Usually,
to
you're
do
not
that.
allowed to profit off of felonies.
I think that's when they're in cage. I don't think that's after the fact, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm completely unfamiliar with that idea. Didn't
Okay.
know. Plus, I mean, it's like she just said she's doing it to advocate for herself. It'd be one thing if she was like, buy my merch. Maybe that'd be different.
Okay.
But who wants to? She also said that she is a legal advocate now. Imagine if you're like you're gonna hire Casey Anthony to be your legal advocate.
It's a weird sell. It's a hard sell.
Then you have taken an IQ test and you are dumb.
Or that is the IQ test.
She'd have to work like pro bono for a little bit, or what is it when only get paid when you win?
Yeah.
Pro
Like,
boner is more like it if you're talking about Casey Anthony.
ew. She looks like a cop to me. She's always.
She does, doesn't she?
And like when I was a kid, I thought she kind of reminds me of like the military women that I've seen around like my dad's work.
Okay.
And
Oh,
when I
you're
got
a
older, I
dyke.
realized that's the same as cop physiognomy.
You should Google it, David. Maybe there's a one of those like porn parodies of Casey Anthony.
Ew. She probably just did
I'm
it.
sure there
She's-
is. How do you know I haven't already?
I don't know. If you haven't, you should report back.
Okay, I will. I did Google Casey Anthony the other day for. Were you guys talking about her or something?
No, it's just that she like is in the news right now because she got she made a TikTok account.
She put herself back in the public eye.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I read something she said recently. She's still dumb.
And you know what's funny? The video she put out one video so far. She gets in the car and it's like she's setting up her camera to start talking, and she gets in the car and says, "Oh, sweating to death in this car." Her daughter died in the back of her car in Florida. So everybody was in the comments like, "Sweating to death in the car?" ? And then later on she says, "I'm not going to reveal my location, so you guys will get very comfortable with the inside of my car." And I went to the comments to say it, but everybody was already saying it. I do not want to be comfortable with your car, Casey Anthony.
I'm sure there's one of those geolocators that will pinpoint her exact location too. You ever watch those guys? They're good.
Oh, wow. That would be interesting, but no, I haven't watched
You send
that.
them like a picture and they're like, "Where am I?" And then it takes them a little bit of time, but then they find out like exactly where you are.
That's insane.
It's cool.
That's creepy.
It's creepy.
It's good research, man.
That's one of my hobbies, man.
Geolocating.
Why does that not surprise me?
Yeah, it's fun. You can show me a picture of just about any place on Earth, and I can pretty much tell you where it is.
All right. We'll put that to the test.
Yeah, we should test it.
Bonnie will send you a link.
Do it.
Do it.
Actually, I was supposed to send David a picture of my grandma and a great grandma, and I forgot.
Send her a picture of your great grandma outside and see if you can figure out where the picture was taken.
You can't even remember that, right? You weren't supposed to send me a picture. You were supposed to call me on the telephone because I had some deets for you, and you didn't do that.
I'm sorry, I forgot all of that. Every day of my life is like ADHD.
Little Miss 18. That's your ACT score.
It was never 18. I only took it once.
Being a caller on Free Talk Live is just a fantasy world. After we go off the air, we don't do anything we say we're going to do.
Yeah, it's pretty much true.
You barely do the stuff. You barely do the stuff on air you say you're going to do on air.
Good point.
Ouch.
Yeah, good one,
It's also
David.
true.
Finally, a good one, David.
Bazing.
Yeah, finally. Oh, and I had a beer with Mike Tyson once there, Mr. Tyson
Whoa.
Gamer.
Okay. How'd that go?
At the
Sounds
bar.
scary.
Huh? No, Mike is cool.
Yeah. He seems cool until you piss him off. Like it's a real easy equation.
Really, he bites your ear off.
Don't
right?
upset him.
Yeah, that's why the strippers in the bar didn't like to do dances for him because they were afraid of him.
I'd be afraid of him, seriously.
Yeah. Just don't upset him. Like he seems really chill.
But he's one of those like
when he's not
irrational
being-
people, so he like will get upset over irrational things. So how are you supposed to know when you upset him, or what's gonna upset him?
Okay.
Just watch for the warning signs and then, back your chair up a little bit.
Seriously, why does he have to wrestle in that outfit that's like a thong?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It is like a thong.
He doesn't wrestle, and when he boxes,
Oh,
he puts on boxing shorts.
I meant boxer. So when he boxed, I meant to say box, not wrestle. He boxed Jake Paul.
He didn't wear a thong.
It looked like a thong. It was showing like his full butt cheeks on each side.
That was before he put on his boxing trunks.
Oh.
That was his like
Yes.
athletic strap.
I didn't watch
where
the
cup
actual fight.
Okay, he didn't box like that.
Okay,
that was
I was
in the
why?
dressing room as he was dressing.
Why did they have pictures of that on the internet?
Watching, buddy.
The internet was posting it everywhere. It became a meme.
Because he didn't put on his boxing shorts yet.
What kind of premiums were you paying for this content?
It wasn't.
He's trying to up his ratings with the gay demographic.
There were like these memes that would say like, is the party gonna have cake? The party. And it'd be like Mike Tyson's giant butt.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I played baseball. I had like the athletic strap that you put on, and then your cup goes inside that, and then you put your pants on over.
Did you ever leave the locker room like that?
I don't think he did. I think they took the picture in the locker room.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he walked around like that. That's what a locker room looks like when the guys are getting dressed.
The other thing was like I never saw anything like that with Jake Paul, so I was like, was Jake Paul wearing pants and he was in a thong when they're fighting?
Jake Paul probably looked similar in his own dressing room before he put on the fancy shorts.
Okay, yeah, but the thing is, I thought he got to the stage like that. Well, okay, I'm glad that mystery has been solved for me because it's been months since that happened.
Could have been during weigh-ins too.
So freetalklive.com. I'm not going to give out the number again because it's not going to be live again till Saturday. freetalklive.com for more. Thank you for listening. Peace.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if